Chapter 637. Even in the Jun family's library, there were not many records about the dark matter. It was only said that the dark matter came from a drop of blood in a mysterious place. Other than that, there were no more records. Jun Xiaoyaro knew that it was meaningless to explore such things now. What he needed to do now was to search for the opportunity in the Temple of Doom. At this moment, in the distance, in the grey fog, specks of scarlet ghost fire suddenly appeared. They were actually eyes. Oh no, it's a wave of demons. General Green Snake's expression changed. When the number of demons contaminated by the dark matter reached a certain level, they would form a wave of demons. If Queen Medusa and the others still maintained their peak combat strength, then it would be fine. But the problem was that Queen Medusa and the others were now suppressed by the domain and could only exert the strength of a saint. This was a bit difficult. Hiss, hiss, all kinds of strange roars were heard. The demons gathered into a wave and swept over. Let's attack together and open a path. As Jun Xiaoyao's voice fell, his whole body bloomed with light. The sacred body of the ancients was a physique of extreme yang and was innately resistant to all kinds of evil forces. Even if Jun Xiaoyaro did not use his magic power to isolate himself, the grey fog would not be able to contaminate him in a short time. Jun Xiaoyaro used his fingers as a sword and slashed out with the immortal Slayer sword chant. A mighty sword aura of thousands of feet broke through the grey fog. There was a hissing sound in front of him and the sound of the sword aura cutting into flesh. If ordinary people encountered such a wave of demons, they would most likely be scared out of their wits. However, Jun Xiaoyao's expression was normal. Queen Medusa and the others also attacked together. Even if their strength was suppressed, they were still far stronger than ordinary saints. The group of people fought and advanced just like that. At this moment, Bai Ling, who was protected in the center by everyone, suddenly seemed to have some kind of feeling. She pointed in a direction in front of her and said in a confused and hesitant voice, "It seems like we have to go there." Hearing this, Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed. Sure enough, bringing Bai Ling into the Temple of Doom was the right decision. She was originally a drop of ancient blood in the Temple of Doom. Jun Xiaoyaro speculated that the drop of ancient blood might have something to do with the origin of the Nogger's bloodline. After that, everyone started to move in the direction that Bai Ling had pointed out. Not long after, an incomparably huge and ancient temple appeared in front of them. Its size was clearly much larger than the surrounding temples. Could this be where the main temple of the Temple of Doom is located? Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. In front of the main temple stood a row of bronze pillars. There were carvings on it, depicting an ancient existence with a human head and a snake body. At first glance, Jun Xiaoyaro felt that she looked like the goddess of creation of Huaxia. Strangely enough, after Jun Xiaoyaro and the others stepped past the bronze pillar, the demonic creatures didn't dare to take even half a step forward, as if they were afraid of something. Up ahead, the ancient temple was magnificent, and it carried a mottled and ancient aura. One could imagine that in its heyday, the Temple of Doom would have been an incomparably magnificent existence. Unfortunately, things had changed with the passage of time, and this place had become a strange demonic land. Jun Xiaoyaro and the others pushed open the bronze door of the main temple. A gust of chilly wind blew, causing the Thunder Snake General and the other Supreme Saints to feel a chill run down their spines. This place is too strange. Green Snake General's skin was covered in goosebumps. Jun Xiaoyaro snapped his fingers, and a colorful Tushi ancient emperor flame floated in the air, slightly illuminating the cold and dark ancient temple. There were some murals on the walls on both sides of the ancient temple. The murals depicted ancient people worshipping a human-headed snake god. Behind it was a peerless beauty who appeared from a river and was worshipped from all directions. As expected, this is the Luo River. Fairy Maiden Yuan stepped forward and touched the murals, her eyes bright and bright. Jun Xiaoyaro thought of Fairy Maiden Yuan's graceful dance of the Luo god. Could it be that this Fairy Maiden Yuan is related to the legendary spirit of the Luo River? Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. It was related to a legendary mythical emperor. Now Jun Xiaoyaro finally understood why Fairy Maiden Yuan was so insistent on coming to the Temple of Doom. Some of the opportunities here were indeed related to her. Of course, Jun Xiaoyaro was not doing charity. If a great opportunity really appeared, he would definitely take the lion's share. As the group went deeper into the ancient temple, they also found many dusty ancient artifacts in some of the side halls, as well as some bottles and jars covered in dust. When the jars were opened, there was a shocking divine radiance swirling within, and a fragrance filled the air. It's a sacred pill, and its medicinal properties have not disappeared. The Thunder Snake General and the others were pleasantly surprised. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced at it, then looked away, without any interest. He had eaten sacred pills like candy since he was young. Only the Naga race, who did not have a rich heritage, saw sacred pills as treasures. Compared to these things, Jun Xiaoyaro was more interested in the murals and carvings. They might have revealed some secrets about the mythical emperor, or immortal. Just as the Green Snake General and the others were packing up the pills and ancient artifacts, Bai Ling suddenly looked at the front of the hall and said blankly, "There's a familiar aura in front." These words made Jun Xiaoyaro and Queen Medusa's eyes flash. They looked at each other and continued forward. A thick blood aura surged toward them. Looking around, in the center of the hall, there was a blood pool about 10 feet in diameter. Inside the blood pool, there was dark red blood. After so much time, the blood still had not coagulated. Beside the blood pool, there were 6 coffins. There was a blood trough under the coffins, and the blood flowed into the blood pool. This is... Queen Medusa was shocked. She could feel that the bloodline in her body seemed to be faintly burning. The Thunder Snake General and the others also felt the same. Is this some kind of sacrificial scene? Jun Xiaoyaro asked suspiciously. This is the most primitive and powerful bloodline of the Naga race. Queen Medusa could not help but reveal an excited expression. She was the strongest of the Naga race, so she could naturally understand the power of this bloodline the most. If the entire Naga race had this bloodline, then, not to mention a sacred lord, even a supreme would not be a rare thing. Just as Queen Medusa was about to go forward and collect the bloodline, Jun Xiaoyaro suddenly said, "If you don't want the Naga race to be completely wiped out, then take this bloodline." "What do you mean, young master?" Queen Medusa stopped. Jun Xiaoyaro stepped forward and said indifferently, "This blood pool contains the power of a curse and a substance of the same origin as the grey fog." Hearing this, Queen Medusa was slightly shocked and looked carefully. As expected, strange runes could be vaguely seen rising from the blood pool. There were also wisps of black gas spreading out. "This is the hope of my Naga race's transformation." Queen Medusa was unwilling. "It's not completely impossible." Jun Xiaoyaro changed his tone and said indifferently, "Young master, do you have a way?" Queen Medusa could not help but step forward and grab Jun Xiaoyao's hand with her jade-like hand. She looked rather nervous. This was related to the transformation and rise of the Naga race, so it was no wonder that Queen Medusa would lose her composure. Chapter 638. Queen Medusa's hand was white and tender, as if it had no bones. He had to admit that it felt good. Seeing this scene, a dark look flashed in the eyes of the Thunder Snake General. How could the usually cold and noble queen lose her composure so easily in front of that human brat? She was like a little girl. Although Queen Medusa had already told them that the Naga tribe would submit to Jun Xiaoyaro, but the Thunder Snake General still felt indignant. Fairy Maiden Yuan and Yang Ruming looked over with their beautiful eyes. Queen Medusa also noticed that she had lost her composure and hurriedly let go of her hand with a slightly embarrassed expression. Jun Xiaoyaro said with a calm expression, "It's very simple. My sacred body of the ancients has the power to restrain evil. If I use the sacred body of the ancients' blood to baptize, I might be able to purify this pool of blood." These words made Queen Medusa's expression change slightly. She naturally understood how important the sacred body of the ancients' blood was to Jun Xiaoyaro. Even if it was just to refine a drop of the sacred body of the ancients' blood, it was tantamount to cutting off his flesh. This was a great sacrifice. "Young Master Jun, Queen Medusa was speechless. She couldn't force Jun Xiaoyaro to sacrifice the sacred body of the ancients' blood for the Naga tribe. Haha, since the Naga tribe is willing to submit to the Son of God, then this small sacrifice is still acceptable to me. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled slightly. Young Master Jun. Even the cold and arrogant Queen Medusa couldn't help but be moved at this moment. Although she had previously agreed to submit to Jun Xiaoyaro, she had only agreed because of the situation and Jun Xiaoyao's background. But now, Queen Medusa felt that Jun Xiaoyaro really valued the Naga tribe. Thank you, Master. Medusa and the Naga tribe will definitely repay this kindness. Queen Medusa bowed to Jun Xiaoyaro. Previously, she had called Jun Xiaoyaro young Master Jun. But now, she called him Master. The change in how Queen Medusa addressed Jun Xiaoyaro was a clear indication of the change in her attitude toward him. It's fine. Jun Xiaoyaro waved his hand. This scene caused Great General Lightning Snake's heart to burn with jealousy. The aloof and cold queen addressed Jun Xiaoyaro as her master. This contrast was unacceptable to General Thundersnake. It was as if the goddess in his heart had become someone else's female slave. A smile flashed across Jun Xiaoyao's eyes. In fact, even if the Naga tribe was not involved, he still wanted to purify this blood pool. This was because Yang Ruming's transformation also required an ancient bloodline. This blood pool was also beneficial to Yang Ruming's awakening of the Sky Dream bewildering butterfly. The Naga tribe was just a side trip. However, a simple sentence would be able to make Queen Medusa unswervingly loyal to him. Why not? As for the blood essence of the saintly body, Jun Xiaoyaro still needed to use his own. This was because the blood essence of a Saint Physique wasn't a complete Saint Physique with 10 shackles severed. Therefore, the purifying power was far inferior to Jun Xiaoyao's Saint Physique blood essence. It couldn't completely purify this blood pool. Jun Xiaoyao's body shook slightly. A drop of Saint Physique blood essence was refined and dripped into the blood pool. In an instant, the saint body's blood essence, which was glowing with gold, began to thicken in the blood pool. There was a hissing sound. It was the grey fog and curse in the blood pool being eroded by the Saint Physique blood. The fresh blood in the blood pool gradually turned bright red, and was suffused with a rich fluctuation. Just as Queen Medusa was about to collect the ancient blood in the blood pool, the 6 coffins suddenly trembled, and then there was a boom. 6 terrifying demonic shadows appeared. They were 6 Naga corpses that had turned into demonic corpses. Different from the Naga tribe, these 6 Naga corpses all had 8 arms and looked quite ancient and terrifying. It's the 8-armed serpent demon. It's the ancient mutated bloodline of the Naga tribe. Queen Medusa said in shock. The 8-armed serpent demon was a deformed existence of the Naga tribe, but they were very ancient. It was impossible for the current Naga corpses to appear in the bloodline of the Naga tribe. Hiss. The 6-headed 8-armed serpent demons acted instinctively and pounced on Jun Xiaoyaro and the other living creatures. Jun Xiaoyaro formed the Kuan Peng fist seal and punched out. The 8-armed serpent demon, which could kill a saint, was blasted back dozens of feet by Jun Xiaoyaro. The rest of the 8-armed serpent demons also fought with the people present. Interesting. It seems that these 8-armed serpent demons have also been contaminated by the demonic energy, Jun Xiaoyaro thought. As he thought, he attacked. Another scream came from another place. It was the scream of the Nether Snake General. He was considered the weakest among the 3 generals. Moreover, he was suppressed by the domain of the Temple of Doom, so he couldn't use his combat strength. His body was torn apart by the 8-armed serpent demons. Nether Snake. The Green Snake General's expression changed, and he went to help. In the end, the 6 8-armed serpent demons were killed. The Nether Snake General also fell. Jun Xiaoyao's expression was calm. He didn't care. With this ancient blood, the Naga tribe's bloodline could transform, and a large number of experts would emerge to strengthen the power of the monarch court. The death of one Nether Snake General was not a big deal. Jun Xiaoyaro went forward, extracted a portion of the ancient blood, and handed it to Yang Ruming. This. Yang Ruming hesitated. If I'm not wrong, the origin of this ancient blood is very likely related to the myth emperor. It's enough for you to awaken, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Thank you. Yang Ruming took the ancient blood, glanced at Jun Xiaoyaro, and smiled sweetly. Yang Ruming's face was already perfect, and this smile was even more alluring. Jun Xiaoyaro also smiled. He understood that Yang Yu Meng was considered to be completely loyal to him. If the Skydream butterfly could be awakened and fully matured, it would at least be at the level of a quasi-emperor. The remaining ancient blood was kept by Queen Medusa. This pool of ancient blood was enough to make her and the entire Naga tribe's strength change qualitatively. This was also what Jun Xiaoyaro wanted to see. He didn't need a weak Naga tribe, but a Naga tribe with many experts. This shouldn't be all the opportunities. Let's continue, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Ever since she obtained the ancient blood, Queen Medusa had followed Jun Xiaoyao's lead. Everyone continued to go deeper. After walking for a long time, in front of them, another bronze door appeared. There was an ancient god engraved on the door, and a mighty river. Jun Xiaoyaro suddenly stopped and whispered, "There's a curse array." Queen Medusa and the others sensed and found that there were chessboard-like black blood array patterns on the ground in front of the bronze door. The runes in different grids were different. What should we do? Queen Medusa didn't know what to do. There may be a life gate here. We can try that path. Jun Xiaoyaro pointed to a rune in the black blood array pattern. Queen Medusa turned to the Thundersnake General and said, "Go and try." The Thundersnake General's expression changed slightly. Although he didn't want to try, he still went forward because of Queen Medusa's order. As soon as he stepped on the rune, a strange grey fog rose and wrapped around the Thundersnake General. His expression changed drastically as he felt his body being corroded. "Sigh, it seems like I was wrong." Jun Xiaoyaro sighed. "Kid, you." The Thundersnake General's eyes bulged as he stared at Jun Xiaoyaro. In the last moment of his life, he saw Jun Xiaoyao's lips curl into a smile. That smile was playful and disdainful. "Kid, how dare you trick me?" The Thundersnake General's words were stuck in his throat and he couldn't say anything. His body collapsed inch by inch and turned into black ashes. Chapter 639. Seeing General Thundersnake turn into ashes, General Greensnake's expression changed. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left among the 4 generals of the Snake Men. Queen Medusa also sighed and didn't say anything. "General Thundersnake, don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame it on your resentment towards Master." Queen Medusa sighed. How could she not see that General Thundersnake was extremely unwilling to submit to Jun Xiaoyaro? Now, Jun Xiaoyaro was the only savior of the Snake Men, and he also helped to purify the ancient blood. Queen Medusa had completely submitted to Jun Xiaoyaro, both physically and mentally. General Thundersnake was an unstable seed. If he acted impulsively and attacked Jun Xiaoyaro, the consequences would be unimaginable. Jun Xiaoyaro was, in fact, giving Queen Medusa a chance to show her loyalty to him. If she was willing to let General Thundersnake die, it would be enough to show her loyalty to Jun Xiaoyaro. It was clear that Queen Medusa had made the right choice. From this, one could see her ruthless and decisive side. This son of God has never liked to leave behind hidden dangers. "If you dare to hold a grudge against me, then you can only die." Jun Xiaoyaro sneered in his heart. Actually, under the suppression of this domain, he could also directly kill General Thundersnake. But he had just subdued the Snake Men, and it was a bit inappropriate to kill a general of the Snake Men. Therefore, he gave the choice to Queen Medusa and also tested her loyalty at the same time. In the end, Queen Medusa didn't disappoint him. "Bai Ling, go and try," Jun Xiaoyaro said again. Young master." Bai Ling's body trembled slightly. She must have been scared when she saw the tragic death of the Thundersnake General. "Master, this." Queen Medusa's expression changed. Jun Xiaoyaro wouldn't want Bai Ling to die too, right? "Don't worry, don't you trust me?" Jun Xiaoyaro said. "Bai Ling trusts you." Bai Ling nodded slightly, gathered her courage, and stepped in. A strange scene happened. As soon as Bai Ling stepped in, the formation actually began to collapse on its own. As expected. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled. Bai Ling was formed from a drop of ancient blood in the Temple of Doom. She wasn't affected and could even break the formation. After the formation was removed, everyone pushed open the bronze door and entered. Looking around, the interior was extremely spacious, and there was an ancient pyramid-like building in the middle. At the top of the building, there was a throne. A figure wearing a dark blue dress made of ice silk and a white jade mask was sitting on it. It felt like it had been silent for thousands of years. A dense black aura was constantly spreading out from her body. The grey fog within the Temple of Doom originated from this place. That's Queen Medusa and the others were stunned. They could feel the terrifying pressure from that figure. Even though many years had passed, that might still cause them to tremble in fear. Sovereign? No, could it be Emperor? Queen Medusa exclaimed. I don't think so. A true emperor, even if silent and fallen, can still suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The pressure can't just be like this. It should be just a contaminated clone. I wonder if there's still a remnant soul? Jun Xiaoyao tried to figure it out. He was now certain that the bloodline of the Nogas definitely came from the emperor. Suddenly, Fairy Maiden Yuan walked to Jun Xiaoyao's side and whispered into his ear, Young Master Jun, can I ask you for a favor? Fairy Maiden Yuan bit her lip slightly with a pitiful look of expectation. She looked beautiful and charming. What is it? Can you give me a drop of sacred body of the ancient's blood? Fairy Maiden Yuan seemed to be a little embarrassed. Her delicate face blushed seductively. Are you trying to squeeze me dry? Jun Xiaoyao was speechless. Did she really think that sacred body of the ancient's blood was like cabbage? I would like to, but with your body, I can't squeeze you dry even if I die of exhaustion, can I? Fairy Maiden Yuan blinked her watery eyes. Ahem. Jun Xiaoyao coughed dryly. This was indeed an irrefutable fact. Are you sure you can get an opportunity? Jun Xiaoyao asked. He had always been a person who didn't do anything without benefits. If there wasn't an opportunity, he would never give Fairy Maiden Yuan the sacred body of the ancient's blood. I'm sure, Fairy Maiden Yuan said confidently. Okay. Jun Xiaoyao didn't waste any time and immediately gave a drop of sacred body of the ancient's blood to Fairy Maiden Yuan. Fairy Maiden Yuan took the drop of blood and then took out something that looked like a jade pendant from her spatial device. There was also a drop of blood in the jade pendant. The drop of blood was as red as an agate. It seemed to be some kind of blood. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes narrowed. That drop of blood made his sacred body of the ancient's blood feel threatened. What kind of blood is that? Jun Xiaoyao was secretly puzzled. Then, Fairy Maiden Yuan stepped onto the pyramid. Suddenly, the silent figure seemed to tremble. Rolling black fog surged out. Seeing this, Fairy Maiden Yuan took out the drop of sacred body of the ancient's blood and dropped it on the figure. Then, she inserted the jade pendant into the figure's body. Suddenly, a lot of black fog surged out of the figure's body. However, when it came into contact with the sacred body of the ancient's blood, it emitted white smoke. When the jade pendant was inserted into the figure, time and space in the entire temple seemed to freeze. Immediately after, a surge of supreme soul power erupted. That was the remnant soul of that figure that had been contaminated. In an instant, everyone seemed to have fallen into a nightmare. Many scenes appeared in front of Jun Xiaoyao's eyes. A woman of unparalleled beauty came out of Luoshui and was worshipped by all the ancestors of the Noga tribe. Then, the beautiful figure went to a wild, ancient, and mysterious place. It didn't seem to be in the 9 heavens immortal realm. The wisp of black fog descended on the great emperor, swallowing and eroding everything. The woman of unparalleled beauty was also contaminated and erupted with monarch-level strength. Then, the scene blurred, leaving only a clone and a remnant soul that returned to the ancestral planet of the Noga tribe, in the ancestral temple. Then, the rolling black fog erupted and drowned the ancestral temple. All the top powerhouses of the Noga tribe had their blood contaminated. They fought each other crazily and died. Jun Xiaoyao immediately understood what was going on as the scenes flashed through his mind. In this temple, the so-called mythical emperor should be related to this peerless woman. The mythical emperor, the goddess of Luoshui, Mi Fei. As for the existence related to immortals, Jun Xiaoyao thought. It was very likely to be related to the legendary goddess of creation, Nua. Jun Xiaoyao didn't expect that he would be able to come into contact with such a secret here. It was obvious that the mythical emperor, Mi Fei, originated from the bloodline inheritance of Nua. The gods worshipped by the Naga tribe were Nua and Mi Fei. Jun Xiaoyaro also saw Tian Yuan standing in front of Mi Fei's clone as if she was receiving some kind of succession. What exactly is Tian Yuan's background? How did she receive the succession of Mi Fei and Nua? Jun Xiaoyaro murmured. At that moment, a shadow of unparalleled elegance suddenly appeared behind Jun Xiaoyaro. A sigh was heard. I think I saw a woman in white with her back facing the world, suppressing the source of darkness. She was alone, dominating the world. The voice was like the sound of nature. Jun Xiaoyao's figure shuddered. It was the same sentence again. Yuantian Supreme's fragmented soul had said the same thing at the supreme treasure of Yuantian. A woman in white with her back facing the world, suppressing the darkness and dominating the world. Who was she? Chapter 640. Jun Xiaoyaro had never thought of himself as a person who was willing to sacrifice. Everything he did was to allow himself to reach the peak, to look down on the past and present, and to overlook the ages. In his opinion, the idea of saving the world was somewhat naive. Jun Xiaoyaro did not think that he would be the one dressed in white who turned his back on the world and suppressed the source of darkness. Of course, if Jun Xiaoyaro had the strength to spare to save the world, it was not impossible for him to do so under the premise that he did not endanger himself. Jun Xiaoyaro admired those who sacrificed themselves for the sake of the world, but he was not that kind of person. Jun Xiaoyaro thought about this and turned around. The hazy figure was just a remnant soul. She was tall and slender, with a graceful figure that was as soft as water. Although she wore a white jade mask on her face, one could imagine that she must have been a stunning existence. "Senior, you still have a remnant soul left," Jun Xiaoyaro said. Even in the face of the mythical emperor, Jun Xiaoyao's tone was still indifferent. "You are, from that clan," Mi Fei's remnant soul said. "Oh, do you know them, senior?" Jun Xiaoyaro asked. "That clan has stood in the mystic realm for countless eras. Even the dark turmoil and the foreign wars could not make them fall. There are still several members of your clan who are fighting to suppress the turmoil," Mi Fei said with a sigh. Obviously, even the mythical emperor was full of admiration for the Jun family. It was definitely the most ancient force in the mystic realm and the most untouchable. "I never thought that I would be able to see someone who broke the 10 shackles and had the sacred body of the ancients in my lifetime. You may be the biggest anomaly in this chaotic world." Mi Fei's tone was deep and meaningful. Jun Xiaoyaro took note of the words "as long as I live." "Senior, you still exist somewhere?" Jun Xiaoyaro asked curiously. "If you continue to grow, you may see me at the source one day." Mi Fei murmured. "The source? Where is that?" Jun Xiaoyaro had another mystery in his heart. Mi Fei did not answer. Instead, she said, "Good karma leads to good karma. Perhaps there is something you need beneath the throne. I only hope that in the future, you will have the ability to find me at the source and fight the Great Tribulation together." Mi Fei's voice echoed with an ethereal aura. "The source, the Great Tribulation of the epoch." Jun Xiaoyaro muttered to himself. He realized that he seemed to have come into contact with something on a deeper level. It was related to this glorious and chaotic great world. "By the way, that companion of mine was actually able to obtain your legacy." Jun Xiaoyaro voiced his doubts. Mi Fei took a deep look at fairy maiden Yuan, who was digesting the inheritance, and shook her head. "She's just a pitiful person." "What do you mean?" Jun Xiaoyaro was confused. How could he become a pitiful person after obtaining the inheritance of the mythic emperor? Mi Fei didn't explain. She seemed to be looking into the distance and muttered to herself, "I can feel that this noble one is facing something very terrifying." Jun Xiaoyaro was speechless. She was really a riddler. Could she make herself clear? What was the point of being so secretive? But then, Mi Fei's remnant soul turned into a wisp of green smoke and disappeared. Everyone in the temple came back to their senses at the same time. Could it be that those scenes are what the ancestors of my Snake People tribe experienced? Queen Medusa also saw the scenes from before. The gods of the Serpent Men tribe were tainted with strange and ominous things and returned. The strange grey fog spread and spread throughout the Serpent Men tribe. The Serpent Men experts fell into a frenzy and killed each other. Almost all of them died. The Snake People tribe had also fallen from its peak to its current state. I didn't expect the Serpent Men tribe to have such a past. Green Snake General also found it unbelievable. They only saw the Serpent Men tribe's distant past. They did not hear the conversation between Jun Xiaoyaro and Mi Fei's remnant soul. Mi Fei gave too much information. Jun Xiaoyaro couldn't digest it all in a short time. But now, what he cared about most was the greatest opportunity in the Temple of Doom. Is it under the throne? Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself as he stepped onto the pyramid. Fairy Yuan was still there with her eyes closed, receiving Mi Fei's inheritance. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced at Fairy Yuan. With her eyes closed, Fairy Yuan's face, which was as pretty as a fairy's, appeared tranquil and beautiful. Why did Mi Fei say she was a pitiful person? What was her identity? How did she receive Mi Fei's inheritance? Who exactly did the drop of blood in the jade pendant she threw out belong to? Where did it come from? Jun Xiaoyaro took a long look at him before turning his eyes away. Under the throne, Jun Xiaoyaro found an old box. However, Jun Xiaoyaro didn't open the box immediately. Queen Medusa and the others saw this and knew that the greatest opportunity in the Temple of Doom might be in the old box. Seeing Jun Xiaoyaro put away the old box, Queen Medusa and the others didn't have any intention of refuting. If it weren't for Jun Xiaoyao's sacred body of the ancient's blood essence, they wouldn't have been able to enter the Temple of Doom so smoothly. It was even more impossible for Queen Medusa to get the ancient blood that could transform the Serpent Men. They were already satisfied. However, just as Jun Xiaoyaro was about to put away the old box, all of a sudden, 4 shadows darted toward Jun Xiaoyaro like phantoms. And at the same time, they used their ultimate killing moves. Shadow Blade, Heart Destruction Palm, Sorcerer Curse, Demon Owl Stab. Any one of the 4 ultimate moves could kill an ordinary saint. Not to mention that they were all assassination moves at the same time. This scene could be said to have caused Queen Medusa and the others to be unable to react in time. Jun Xiaoyaro, who was surrounded by the 4 ultimate assassination moves, looked normal. I, the Son of God, was wondering how long you could hold it in. Now that the treasure has appeared, you finally can't help but let the cat out of the bag. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled faintly, and at the same time, a wave of mana immunity spread out. The translucent, grayish-black shadow blade dissipated into the void. Don't be affected by him. Kill him, one of the black-clothed men said. The other 3 men strengthened their moves again and went for the kill. Jun Xiaoyaro flicked his finger and slashed out the sword chant of the Immortal Slayer, which collided with the Heart Destruction Palm. Then, a divine chain of order appeared between his eyebrows and turned into a golden short sword. It was the Primitive Emperor Sword. The Primitive Emperor Sword collided with the Demon Owl Stab, and thousands of ripples burst out. In the end, Jun Xiaoyao's whole body surged with golden light as he directly resisted the Sorcerer Curse. The strange Sorcerer Curse that could instantly turn a saint into black pus and blood did not affect Jun Xiaoyaro at all. His sacred body of the ancients was immune to many strange energies. Boom! In just a breath's time, the ultimate attack of the 4 ultimate assassins was easily neutralized by Jun Xiaoyaro. 4 figures floated in the void. All 4 of them wore black robes and exuded a strange and cold aura. There was also a faint smell of blood. Clearly, the hands of these people were stained with countless lives. It's the 13 bandits of Emperor Road. Yang Rumeng, Tai-Yin Jade Hair, and the others could not help but exclaim. Even they had heard of the 13 bandits of Emperor Road. They robbed and assassinated Sky Prides everywhere. They also robbed Sky Prides of their physiques and bloodline origin. The Immortal Slayer Bandit, who ranked first among the 13 bandits, was an extremely mysterious existence that made all the outlawed Sky Prides wary. Chapter 641. You've already sensed our presence, one of the 4 great bandits, the Shadow Demon Bandit said coldly. He was the one who was keeping an eye on Jun Xiaoyao's movements in Shongqiu Ancient City. The concealment technique that you think you're good at is only child's play of hide and seek in my eyes. Jun Xiaoyao shook his head with a smile. Jun Xiaoyao's primordial spirit was extremely powerful. His divine sense was far sharper than ordinary people too. Jun Xiaoyaro had already sensed the shadow demon bandit's presence when he was still in Shangqiu ancient city. However, in his eyes, the shadow demon bandit was only a rat in the gutter that was not worth mentioning. As such, he had never bothered with them. Now that the 4 great bandits had made their move, Jun Xiaoyaro had no choice but to take them out. How dare you attack young master, die! Queen Medusa, General Bluesnake, and the others made their moves. You can only utilize the strength of a sacred realm cultivator here, one of the 4 great bandits, the heart-crushing bandit said coldly. He and the other great bandit, the heavenly witch bandit, fended off Queen Medusa and the others. The shadow demon bandit and the demon bandit charged at Jun Xiaoyaro. Shadow demon descends. Demon bandit's clone. The two were very decisive too. They knew Jun Xiaoyaro was not an easy opponent to deal with, thus they immediately executed their strongest moves. The rift was torn apart as a terrifying shadow demon that seemed to have descended from a different dimension appeared. It was half illusionary with a chaotic aura. A huge pitch-black bird appeared behind the demon bandit with a chaotic demonic intent. Jun Xiaoyaro sharply noticed that the source of the bandit's strength was not compatible with the 9 heavens immortal realm. It felt like they did not share the same origin. Could it be? Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flickered with astonishment as he thought of a possibility. He activated the supreme being bone in his chest. Boundless heavenly power surged out, causing the sky to tremble. Vaguely, an incomparably vast palm pressed down like a 5-fingered mountain. The giant hand was covered in ancient runes with a great power that could kill all living things. It was the hand of heaven. Boom! The hand of heaven smashed the shadow demon and the pitch-black demon owl into pieces. Shadow fiend bandit and devil owl bandit retreated at the same time, spitting out blood from their mouths. They looked at each other and took out many divine weapons. Explode! Among these divine weapons, there were even supreme weapons. These were the spoils of war they looted after robbing many heaven's favorites. Now, he did not feel any heartache at all, directly causing it to explode. The explosion of a supreme artifact was so powerful that even a saint could be killed by it if he was not careful. Boom! 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 The entire temple was shaking. If not for the special domain suppressing the area, the entire Temple of Doom would have collapsed from the explosion. Is he dead? The shadow demon bandit asked with lingering fear. Suddenly, a sword finger pointed out from the smoke. Poochie. Blood splattered across the sky. The shadow fiend bandit's forehead was pierced, and his yuan spirit was shattered. Oh no! Demon bandit felt a chill in his heart and quickly retreated. Jun Xiaoyao's figure was revealed. He was clean and unharmed, and his clothes were not even wrinkled. With Jun Xiaoyao's incredible physical body, even the explosion of a supreme artifact could not hurt him at all. Jun Xiaoyaro reached out his hand, and the law turned into a giant palm, grabbing Demon Bandit. However, he did not kill Demon Bandit immediately. On the other side, the Heart Destroyer Bandit and the Heavenly Witch Bandit were also suppressed by Queen Medusa and the Green Snake General. Master, what should we do with these people? Queen Medusa asked. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced at the 3 subdued bandits and said, "You've been eyeing the Son of God since the beginning. What are you up to?" Demon Bandit and the others snorted and did not say anything. Jun Xiaoyaro did not mind. He smiled faintly and said, "Is it because of my sacred body of the ancients and bones of supremacy? The leader of the 13 bandits, the mysterious immortal bandit, is collecting all kinds of bloodlines. What is his purpose?" Demon Bandit snorted and said, "We've been defeated by you today, but you should know that the 4 of us are the weakest among the 13 bandits. The other 9 are all stronger than us, not to mention the top few bandits, who are more than enough to deal with you. If our leader, the immortal bandit, attacks, even the son of God of the Jun family will have to bleed." Jun Xiaoyaro chuckled and said, "It's okay. When the time comes, the son of God will send all the 13 bandits to hell together. But before that, I have another thing that interests me. Where did you come from?" As soon as he finished speaking, the Demon Bandit and the other 2's expressions changed slightly. What do you mean by that?" Demon Bandit's eyes flickered with panic. "Are you still trying to act dumb at a time like this? If I'm not mistaken, You must be from a foreign realm, right? What? The 13 bandits are from a foreign realm? Yang Rumeng, Tai Yin Jade Hair, and the others widened their eyes in surprise. The foreign realm had always been on the opposite side of the Nine Heavens immortal realm. The invasions of the foreign realm in history were wars that could change the history of the world. Every war would shatter the heavens and the earth, shatter the universe, and shake eras. And now, the creatures of the foreign realm had infiltrated the ancient path. It was completely out of their expectations. After all, the foreign realm had been quiet for a long time. The people of the Nine Heavens immortal realm had become careless. If the news was made public, it would surely cause a great uproar. You! Demon Bandit and the others panicked. They had always killed the geniuses with a single blow. They never had the chance to expose their identities. But now, they were caught red-handed by Jun Xiaoyao. What kind of background do you have? What kind of organization is behind you? Jun Xiaoyao asked calmly. Just give up. We won't say anything. The demonic thief shouted. Jun Xiaoyao did not say anything and slapped him. Fart. Demon Bandit was smashed into a bloody pulp. Demon Bandit and Heart Destroyer Bandit's faces were pale. Jun Xiaoyao raised his hand again and killed Heart Destroyer Bandit. Blood splattered on Demon Bandit's body, making him feel like his mind was about to collapse. Jun Xiaoyao's lips curled into a cold smile. He activated the Primal Chaos Divine Grindstone again and crushed it. This kind of crushing and torturing of the soul was not something an ordinary person could endure. After being tortured, the Sky Witch Bandit finally spilled some secret information. The 13 bandits lurked in the ancient path of the Nine Heavens immortal realm. One of their goals was to spy on the strength of the younger generation of the Nine Heavens immortal realm. It could be seen that the foreign realm, which had been quiet for many years, was ready to make a move. The shadow of war was added to this world of great battles. Besides, another piece of news made Jun Xiaoyao raise his eyebrows. He learned from Demon Bandit that their boss, the leader of the 13 bandits, the immortal slaying bandit, was destined to kill him. I see. I understand now. Looks like the first of the 7 defiant emperors has appeared. Jun Xiaoyao smiled. Chapter 642. It had been quite some time since Jun Xiaoyao set foot on the ultimate ancient road. However, he had yet to stumble into the 7 defiant emperors. Jun Xiaoyao did not think the will of the immortal realm was merciful enough to forgive him. However, it was said that the 7 emperors were hidden in the shadows and did not reveal themselves. They would show up one by one on the ultimate ancient road to deal a fatal blow to Jun Xiaoyao. Now, the strongest of the 7 defiant emperors had finally shown himself. The problem isn't the enemies on the surface, but the rats hiding in the dark. It's easier now that I know their identities, Jun Xiaoyao said confidently. Once he caught the 7 defiant emperors one by one, he would be able to torture them to death. In addition to it, the Heavenly Witch Robber also revealed that the 13 great bandits were backed by a faction called the Parameter Organization. Jun Xiaoyao was sure that there was no immortal faction called the Parameter Organization in the Nine Heavens immortal realm. In other words, the organization was most likely from a foreign realm. The Heavenly Witch Robber had no idea what they were up to. He was ranked the lowest among the 13 great bandits, so he did not have access to any useful information. If he wanted to learn more, he would have to catch the great bandits who were ranked higher. Or, he would have to take down the immortal execution bandit who was ranked first. It seems like I have something else to do, Jun Xiaoyao murmured. The 13 great bandits might be well hidden, but there were still traces left behind. Besides, Jun Xiaoyao still had Fairy Yuan by his side. The goddess mill behind her was not only a brothel, it was also a reputable intelligence organization in the immortal realm. With their strength, they might be able to find some clues about the 13 bandits. Having this thought, Jun Xiaoyao killed the Heavenly Witch Robber and looked at Fairy Yuan. Fairy Yuan's delicate body suddenly trembled, and her tightly shut beautiful eyes finally opened. A wisp of light was circulating on her forehead as her eyes emitted a brilliant glow. Although Fairy Yuan's cultivation realm didn't have any obvious increase. However, Jun Xiaoyao could sense that Fairy Yuan had undergone some changes. The heavenly maiden Yuan from before was like a fairy that had accidentally fallen into the mortal world. And now, this immortal had awakened. Where did she come from? Who did the drop of blood in the jade pendant belong to? Why did Mi Fei say that she was a pitiful person? Zhun Xiaoyao was still puzzled. As if sensing Zhun Xiaoyao's attention, fairy maiden Yuan turned her gaze over, her eyes rippling like water. With her hands clasped behind her back, she walked over to Zhun Xiaoyao with a joyful expression on her face. It was obvious that she had gained something. She leaned closer to Zhun Xiaoyao. Her flawless and exquisite face was as delicate and lustrous as white porcelain. That pair of eyes that were as clear as gemstones stared fixedly at Zhun Xiaoyao as she exhaled and said, "Young Master Zhun, your humble servant thanks you very much." After she finished speaking, her cherry lips pecked Zhun Xiaoyao's cheek like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Zhun Xiaoyao's expression didn't change. It was better to say that he was used to being harassed. But he could feel that fairy maiden Yuan's words were sincere. And not like before, wearing a mask. When Yang Rumeng saw this scene, she felt a little sour in her heart. When Queen Medusa saw this, she also felt an inexplicable sense of discomfort. Seeing that Zhun Xiaoyao didn't have any reaction, fairy maiden Yuan also muttered in a low voice that he didn't know how to appreciate the situation. Then she smiled and asked, "Young Master Zhun, aren't you curious about what inheritance I have obtained?" "That's your business. What does it have to do with me?" Zhun Xiaoyao didn't care at all. Even if fairy maiden Yuan had obtained the inheritance of Mi Fei or newer, in Zhun Xiaoyao's eyes, she wasn't much of a threat. "All right, this matter is over. Let's leave first," Zhun Xiaoyao said. Everyone nodded slightly. This time, it could be considered a success. As for the dead Thunder Snake General and Hell Snake General, only Green Snake General would sigh in his heart. Everyone left the Temple of Doom. When they came out, they realized that the grey fog had thinned a little. Perhaps in the future, the Temple of Doom could be restored to its original state. When they saw Zhun Xiaoyao, Queen Medusa, and the others walk out of the Temple of Doom, all the serpent men outside heaved a sigh of relief and cheered. Everyone, although Thunder Snake General and Hell Snake General have fallen, the serpent men, under young Master Zhun's leadership, will be even more glorious and prosperous. Queen Medusa began to brainwash them. She also told them about how Zhun Xiaoyao had donated his blood essence to purify the serpent men's ancient blood in the Temple of Doom. After hearing this, the serpent men, who had resisted Zhun Xiaoyao, had a 360-degree change in their view of Zhun Xiaoyao. "Thank you, Son of God, for your kindness to the serpent men." Some elders of the serpent men clasped their hands and bowed. Many serpent men followed suit. But there were still some serpent men who rejected outsiders and found it difficult to speak. But at this moment, a terrifying spatial vortex appeared in the sky above the ancient heavenly underworld star. A spatial gate appeared out of thin air. "Oh no, is it the executor of the ancient road?" Queen Medusa's face changed. She had already removed the ceiling formation, and the other human prodigies had fled for their lives. The commotion in this star field must have alarmed the executor of the ancient road. The executor's arrival in the form of a spatial gate was enough to show his anxiety and anger. Before he even came out of the spatial door, a thunderous roar that shook the heavens rang out. "Serpent men, how dare you hunt the prodigies of the ancient road? Today, I will completely annihilate your race." As the voice fell, a terrifying figure in golden armor stepped out of the spatial gate. He looked like a god of punishment. As he stepped out, a vast supreme aura covered the entire ancient heavenly underworld star. The earth began to tremble, and cracks spread. All of the serpent men were trembling under the might of this supreme being. Many of the serpent men were crushed to the ground, their liver and gallbladder shattered. "Mother, I'm scared." Bai Ling also burrowed her head into Queen Medusa's embrace, her delicate body trembling. "Chemph. Now you're scared. How dare you hunt the prodigies of the ancient road?" The executor of the ancient road stepped forward like thunder. Even the strongest of the serpent people, Queen Medusa, felt as if she was about to suffocate when she sensed this terrifying utmost exalted might. She couldn't help but look pleadingly at Zhun Xiaoyao. At this moment, The cold and domineering Queen Medusa seemed to have become a woman looking for someone to rely on. Even as the atmosphere turned somber, a calm voice was heard all of a sudden. "Executor of the ancient road, why are you so angry? It's just a few insignificant ants that died. Who dares to speak nonsense?" The executor of the ancient road frowned. However, when he looked in the direction of the voice and saw the white-robed, peerless figure, his expression changed. His expression froze at first, then his eyes widened slightly, revealing a look of bewilderment. After carefully inspecting for a moment, he sucked in a breath of cold air and felt his bones go numb. He quickly retracted his supreme aura and appeared in front of the white-robed figure. Clasping his hands, he smiled and said, "So it's the Son of God of the Jun family. I hope you don't take offense, Son of God." A moment ago, the executor of the ancient road had been about to destroy the entire planet. Now, he was just an ordinary middle-aged man with a smile on his face. All of the serpent men were stunned. Queen Medusa was also very surprised. Her bright red lips were wide open. She remembered what Jun Xiaoyaro had said before. Even the executor of the ancient road, who could destroy the serpent men with a wave of his hand, had to bow his head in front of him. At this moment, it was reality. What was monstrous power? This was monstrous power. Chapter 643. Anyone who could be considered a taboo on the ancient road had to have a powerful background. Those who were talented and strong, but didn't have a powerful background, could only be called dark horses. Not even the executors of the ancient road would dare to offend someone like Jun Xiaoyao, who was a freakishly talented genius with a powerful background. After all, in the face of the Jun clan, a paragon wouldn't be able to cause much of a stir. Besides, the executors of the ancient road knew that there were some old freaks from the Jun clan at the end of the ancient road. Furthermore, they were from the hidden bloodline. Because of that, the executors of the ancient road didn't dare to offend Jun Xiaoyao. Of course, the executors of the ancient road were paragons, so there was no need for them to bow and scrape. However, their attitude was very calm, and they didn't put on any airs of a paragon. "Don't worry about it," Jun Xiaoyaro said with a faint smile. "You're just doing your job impartially. The ancient road needs people like you to maintain its stability." Face was a matter of mutual respect. After all, the executors of the ancient road was a paragon, and Jun Xiaoyaro wasn't going to rely on his background to act so arrogantly. In response, the executors of the ancient road's smile grew even wider, and they found Jun Xiaoyaro even more pleasing to the eye. Looking around, he said, "Son of God, the situation here." "It's nothing," Jun Xiaoyaro said. "Just a small accident. The snake men have already pledged allegiance to the imperial court, so they won't do anything to harm any of the chosen from the ancient road." "I see," the executors of the ancient road said with a smile. "Since you have the Son of God to vouch for you, then everything will be fine." Jun Xiaoyao's words indicated that the snake men were now his subordinates. The executors of the ancient road didn't want to make things difficult for themselves. "Many thanks," Jun Xiaoyaro said, clasping hands. "You're welcome," the executors of the ancient road said, smiling. Perhaps this good karma would be repaid in the future. Furthermore, he hadn't paid a price for it. The ones who had died were just some insignificant chosen. However, when he heard that Jun Xiaoyaro had killed Mo Jinyu of the Holy Spirit Island and Sheng Hongyi of the Holy Orchid cult, he was shocked. The executors of the ancient road's eyes shone with astonishment. After that, the ancient law enforcer left with a smile. Only when the spatial gate above the starry sky had completely disappeared did all the serpent men beings heave a sigh of relief. The way they looked at Jun Xiaoyaro changed again. Even the serpent men, who were reluctant to submit to Jun Xiaoyaro before, had looks of awe in their eyes at the moment. "Thank you, Master. If it wasn't for you." Queen Medusa stepped forward, and her eyes were filled with reverence and joy. She had indeed chosen the right person. "Young Master, you're too amazing." Bai Ling's eyes were also sparkling. Young girls worshipped great heroes. The current Jun Xiaoyaro was undoubtedly the savior of the entire Naga tribe. Mother and daughter looked at Jun Xiaoyaro with eyes full of worship. "It's fine. You serpent men can continue to live on the ancient underworld planet for now. After I finish traversing the ancient road, I'll arrange for people to move you to the Emperor's court in the barren heaven immortal domain. During this time, with my name, neither the executors of the ancient road nor the other chosen will do anything to the Naga tribe, Jun Xiaoyaro said. When Queen Medusa and the others heard this, they thanked him profusely and felt incomparably grateful. The serpent men were also grateful to Jun Xiaoyaro, and no longer had any thoughts of resistance. The curtains had been drawn on the ancient underworld planet and the Temple of Doom. After that, Queen Medusa distributed the ancient blood she had obtained from the blood pool in the Temple of Doom to the serpent men. The bloodline of the serpent men was very ancient. However, because of an accident, the serpent men had completely declined. Now, the ancient blood could be used to reactivate their bloodline. In a short time, a large number of experts would emerge from the serpent men. Queen Medusa directly gave the most luxurious palace to Jun Xiaoyaro. In the spacious and luxurious palace, Jun Xiaoyaro sat cross-legged and looked at the ancient box in front of him. It was the thing he had obtained from the throne of the Temple of Doom. Jun Xiaoyaro was curious as to what kind of treasures could be found in there. It's related to the mythical emperors and immortals. It shouldn't be too bad, Jun Xiaoyaro murmured as he opened the box. Suddenly, golden light flowed, and the sound of immortals could be heard. A golden legend? Jun Xiaoyaro squinted slightly and looked at it. There were a few things inside. The first thing Jun Xiaoyaro saw was a golden scroll with golden foil, and the sound of immortals could be heard. Every word in it was like a rotating star, describing the truth of heaven and earth and the mysteries of the universe. It's the Immortal Sutra. While Jun Xiaoyaro had expected something like this to happen, he still couldn't help but be overjoyed when he saw the scripture for himself. The Jun family must also have the Immortal Sutra. They didn't give it to Jun Xiaoyaro before because they were afraid of spoiling it. After all, Jun Xiaoyaro was still too young. Even some incomplete Immortal Sutras were enough for some Supreme Being experts to study for countless years. Jun Xiaoyaro himself, on the other hand, had just gotten his hands on an incredibly precious scroll of mystical scriptures. Most importantly, this was the complete version of the Immortal Sutra, not the incomplete Immortal Sutra that only had a few pages left. After a rough look, Jun Xiaoyao's eyes surged with a bright light. The Immortal Sutra of Creation, is it really related to the legendary goddess of creation, Nua? Jun Xiaoyaro thought. Mi Fei should have the bloodline of Nua, and she was also at the mythical emperor level. If Nua existed, she might not just be a mythical emperor. It was possible that she was the legendary immortal mortal. The Immortal Sutra of Creation, mastering the way of creation, shaping the world, and giving birth to the four poles. When cultivated to the extreme, it can even create living beings. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were very bright. This didn't just mean that Jun Xiaoyaro had the opportunity to break the 9 poles and cultivate the 10th immortal qi of creation. It also meant that the divine origin in his dantian had the opportunity to transform. Because in Jun Xiaoyao's imagination, the divine origin in his body was like the singularity of the universe, just a beginning. In the future, Jun Xiaoyaro would use the divine origin as the foundation to derive his own world and his own great path. The way of creation would undoubtedly be of great help to Jun Xiaoyaro in deriving a world. This Immortal Sutra of Creation came at the right time. If I completely master the way of creation, the divine origin in my body will undergo a huge change. In the future, I can derive a world and raise gods and demons in captivity, or create billions of living beings, gather the power of faith, and create an immortal divine kingdom. In an instant, thousands of ideas flashed through Jun Xiaoyao's mind. It could be said that the value of the Immortal Sutra of Creation to Jun Xiaoyaro was not as simple as an Immortal Sutra. It was also an important means of deriving the great path of origin. Its importance was no less than the 3 Lives Immortal Sutra. Next, Jun Xiaoyaro looked at the second item in the ancient box. It was an ancient artifact in the shape of a jade disc. It looked very ancient. Jun Xiaoyaro took a closer look and saw that there were 2 extremely ancient words engraved on the jade disc. Chapter 644. Creation. Jun Xiaoyaro murmured softly. It was a treasure shaped like a jade disc with the word creation engraved on it. He could not help but think of a supreme treasure, the creation jade disc. In addition to the word creation engraved on the jade disc, there were also engravings of mountains, rivers, seas, sun, moon, stars, grass, trees, insects, and fish. It was as if thousands of living beings were engraved on it, operating creation, and there was a faint flow of chi. Obviously, this was a supreme treasure that was extremely helpful for comprehending the immortal sutra of creation. There is immortal chi flowing on this creation jade disc. Could it be an immortal artifact, but it feels incomplete. Jun Xiaoyaro picked up the creation jade disc and pondered in his heart. Immortal artifacts were existences above emperor weapons, and there were not many of them since ancient times. If emperor weapons could suppress the fate of an immortal force, then immortal artifacts could suppress the fate of an immortal domain, or even a world. Awesome Literature website. Although Jun Xiaoyaro did not think that his luck was bad, he did not think that he could randomly pick up an immortal artifact. Moreover, if it was really an immortal artifact, Mi Fei would have taken it to suppress the darkness, and would not have left it here. Could it be that this creation jade disc is an imitation of an immortal artifact, or is it just a part of an immortal artifact? Jun Xiaoyaro pondered. Although Jun Xiaoyaro did not know the details of the creation jade disc for the time being, Jun Xiaoyaro already understood its purpose. Obviously, compared to using the creation jade disc as an offensive weapon, its greater use was to assist in comprehending the immortal sutra of creation, and to be used as a cornerstone for the derivation of a world. If Jun Xiaoyaro expanded the divine origin in his body in the future, he could place the creation jade disc in his world, stabilize the expansion of the world, and become the strongest cornerstone. The immortal sutra of creation and the creation jade disc complement each other. Not only can it help me break through the limit and cultivate the 10th strand of immortal chi, but it can also let me control the Tao of creation of the world and expand the divine origin in my body. Jun Xiaoyaro was a little excited, which was rare. Although this was not an increase in cultivation level, it was much more important to Jun Xiaoyaro than a mere increase in cultivation level. Right now, he could kill half-step great saints. If Jun Xiaoyaro cultivated the 10th strand of immortal chi, the divine origin in his body would expand and give birth to a world. Perhaps he could even kill a true great sage. Suppressing the joy in his heart, Jun Xiaoyaro continued to look at the last item in the box. It was also a scripture, but not an immortal scripture. It was engraved with the image of a god with a human head and a snake body mending the sky. It's a cultivation method suitable for the serpent men. It seems that Mi Fei has left a path for the serpent men to rise again. Jun Xiaoyaro didn't need this cultivation technique. Medusa, Jun Xiaoyaro called out casually. Master. Outside the palace, Queen Medusa swayed her slender waist as she happily arrived. Who would have thought that this vicious beauty, who was as fierce as she was beautiful, would really be like a maid at this moment, guarding the entrance of the palace and listening to Jun Xiaoyao's instructions? Looking at Jun Xiaoyao, Queen Medusa's cold and beautiful face revealed a rare hint of uneasiness. Master won't really want me to do that, right? Queen Medusa was a little nervous. She had been focusing all her energy on revitalizing the Serpent Men tribe. She had no time to think about the matters between men and women. Moreover, she had used the blood origin life creation technique to create a daughter. Thus, there was even less need to think about partners. So up until now, the only person who had come close to her body was Jun Xiaoyao. She was very nervous. If Jun Xiaoyao really wanted her to be a bed-warming maid, what should she do? Jun Xiaoyao did not notice the nervousness in Queen Medusa's eyes and directly handed the cultivation technique to her. The Serpent Men tribe can cultivate this cultivation technique. Together with the ancient blood, the Serpent Men tribe will rise rapidly in a short time, Jun Xiaoyao said. Queen Medusa was stunned at first, but after receiving the cultivation technique, her beautiful eyes shone brightly. This cultivation technique was very suitable for the Serpent Men tribe. Many thanks, Master. Queen Medusa bowed to Jun Xiaoyao. She was truly grateful for what Jun Xiaoyao had done for her. Jun Xiaoyao had purified the Serpent Men's ancient blood and saved them from being exterminated by the executors of the ancient road. Now, he had given the Serpent Men this cultivation technique. Zhang Xiaoyao's kindness to the Serpent Men tribe could not be repaid in 10,000 lifetimes. The Serpent Men tribe will forever be loyal to Master. If we disobey, may the heavens strike us with lightning and exterminate us. Queen Medusa swore. This also represented her determination. Zhang Xiaoyao nodded in satisfaction. There was no need to doubt the Serpent Men's loyalty. Zhang Xiaoyao waved his hand and said, "Very good. You can go now." However, Queen Medusa still did not move and maintained her kneeling posture. Because of the angle, Queen Medusa's breasts were exceptionally white and the curve was too exaggerated. "You," Zhang Xiaoyao said. Queen Medusa's charming face blushed slightly and said, "Didn't Master say that he wants you to warm his bed?" Zhang Xiaoyao said indifferently. Queen Medusa was slightly shy and lowered her head without saying a word. "It's just a joke. You can go now." Zhang Xiaoyao waved his hand. He was not Xu Xian and did not have the same preferences as the Serpent Men. Although Queen Medusa's body was indeed very intimate. A hint of disappointment flashed in Queen Medusa's eyes, but she could only nod slightly and leave. Next, Zhang Xiaoyao planned to stay in the ancient underworld star and comprehend the immortal Sutra of Fortune. He had to cultivate the immortal Qi of Fortune. It would be even better if he could expand the divine origin in his body. Just as Zhang Xiaoyao was about to cultivate in seclusion, the Taiyin jade hair came. "Young master, Heavenly Maiden Yuan is looking for you." "Oh." Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes showed a hint of surprise. He got up and went to find Heavenly Maiden Yuan. Zhang Xiaoyao came to a cliff where he could see the starry sky. A girl in a light blue gauze dress stood on the peak of the mountain against the wind. A gust of wind blew past, blowing up her hair. As if sensing Zhang Xiaoyao's footsteps, the girl looked back and smiled. He had to admit that the girl was very beautiful at this moment. It reminded Zhang Xiaoyao of a poem. He could not help but murmur. "There is a beauty in the north, peerless and independent. A glance at a city, another glance at a country." As soon as the words fell, Heavenly Maiden Yuan was slightly startled at first, but then a beautiful smile appeared on her delicate face with a touch of crimson. "Young master, are you praising me with this poem? You'll make me proud. What do you want from me?" Zhang Xiaoyao asked. "I want to go back to the goddess mill and get the position of successor owner," Heavenly Maiden Yuan said. "That's a good thing. Congratulations," Zhang Xiaoyao said. Heavenly Maiden Yuan now had no competitors, so it was natural for her to get the position of successor owner of the goddess mill. And this was also good for Zhang Xiaoyao. In the future, he could also use the power of Heavenly Maiden Yuan and the goddess mill to investigate information about the 13 thieves. Little did he know that Heavenly Maiden Yuan, who heard this, lowered her eyebrows, and there was no joy on her face. "In that case, I will have to leave young master's side." "How is that a good thing?" The girl's tone was full of resentment and coquettishness, which was very touching. Zhang Xiaoyao did not say anything. When Heavenly Maiden Yuan saw this, a trace of undetectable sadness flashed in her eyes, and then a smile appeared on her face. "I'm going to leave. Young master, are you not sad at all?" "No," Zhang Xiaoyao said without hesitation. "So heartless," Heavenly Maiden Yuan said coquettishly. Then, she fixed her eyes on Zhang Xiaoyao, and her tone suddenly became as gentle as water. "Young master, before I leave, let me dance for you one more time." After that, without waiting for Zhang Xiaoyao to answer, Heavenly Maiden Yuan stretched out her soft and beautiful limbs and began to dance under the starry sky. She was as graceful as a swan, like a swimming dragon. She was like a light cloud covering the moon, and like the wind returning snow. It was a beautiful scene. Zhang Xiaoyao suddenly felt that Heavenly Maiden Yuan seemed to want to say something to him, but she couldn't say it. In the end, she could only respond with a dance. "Heavenly Maiden Yuan, what are you hiding?" Zhang Xiaoyao thought to himself. Chapter 645. Under the starry sky, starlight sprinkled down. A young girl danced on the mountain peak, her dress fluttering, her figure gentle and beautiful. She wore a pair of white stockings, and her slender and sparkling legs drew a graceful arc in the air. Fairy Yuan was like a beautiful fairy, dancing under the starry sky. This dance was enough to topple the world. Even Jun Xiaoyaro, who was used to seeing fairies, was dazed for a moment, but he quickly came back to his senses. He was not an ascetic monk. If Fairy Yuan was willing to dance for him, he was also willing to watch. Jun Xiaoyaro also noticed it. Although it was the same goddess Luo's graceful dance. But this time, when Fairy Yuan danced, it was obviously different from before. It carried the radiance of the great Tao. Many runes appeared in the void, mottled with colors. In contrast, Fairy Yuan really looked like the goddess Luo Mi Fei who came out of the water. Looks like it should be because she received Mi Fei's inheritance, Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. After the dance, a rain of flowers fell from the void. That was the manifestation of the great Tao resonance. Young master, is it beautiful? Fairy Yuan tilted her head slightly and smiled. Yes, Jun Xiaoyaro said truthfully. Hearing this, Fairy Yuan's heart was sweet as if she had eaten honey. Jun Xiaoyaro looked at Fairy Yuan and suddenly said, "Who are you?" The smile on Fairy Yuan's face slowly faded. Her beautiful eyes were clear and calm. Suddenly, she smiled and said, "I'm a fish. Every time, I try my best to jump out of the water and become the goddess Luo who came out of the water, to control my own destiny. But in the end, I discovered that I'm still the fish that can't jump out of the river. In the end, I can only swim in the river of fate." After saying that, Fairy Yuan seemed to laugh at herself and said, "Look at me, what nonsense am I talking about?" She looked at Jun Xiaoyaro with her beautiful eyes and suddenly approached Jun Xiaoyaro, stuffing a jade pendant into his hand. "If young master Jun wants me, just crush this jade pendant, and I'll come back to find you regardless of everything." Her eyes were watery as she looked at Jun Xiaoyaro, as if she wanted to engrave his appearance in her heart. Then, Fairy Yuan turned to leave. "Wait," Jun Xiaoyaro said. Fairy Yuan's delicate body trembled slightly. She looked back, and there was a hint of palpitation in her eyes. "Later, I need your help to find out more about the 13 thieves with the help of the goddess Mill," Jun Xiaoyaro said. Fairy Maiden Yuan's eyes dimmed, and a trace of undetectable bitterness appeared at the corner of her mouth. Then she smiled and said, "I understand. I will definitely carry out your orders." Even though she knew that Jun Xiaoyaro had only treated her as a cooperative partner even now. Fairy Yuan had no regrets, nor did she blame Jun Xiaoyaro. Because she had also made use of Jun Xiaoyaro. However, how Fairy Yuan wished that she and Jun Xiaoyaro weren't just using each other. Looking at Fairy Yuan's back as she left, Jun Xiaoyaro put his hands behind his back and pondered. A fish that can't swim out of the river of fate. Fairy Yuan, who is the one in charge of your fate? Jun Xiaoyaro murmured. Outside the heavenly underworld ancient star, in the starry sky. Fairy Yuan stood alone on the starry sky flying ship. She picked up a jade slip, and the jade slip flickered slightly, and a cold female voice came from it. "It seems that you have obtained the inheritance." "Yes, I have obtained the heavenly heart scripture of Empress Wa. Fairy Yuan's face became indifferent and expressionless. "Very good. My sacred body of Empress Wa can finally transform completely. When the time comes, the number of people on the entire ancient road who can fight with me will be less than 5. Although this female voice was like the sound of nature, it had a peerless spirit that was not inferior to a man's. She was like a supreme empress who ruled the heavens and the universe." Fairy Yuan remained expressionless as she listened to the woman's words. "However, that Jun Xiaoyaro is indeed far beyond my expectations. Not only can he kill a half-step great saint, but he can even block 3 moves from a sacred lord. It seems that being cautious is the right thing to do." The woman's tone was grave. "You can't deal with him. Not only you, but even with Jiu Tiezi and the others, it's impossible," Fairy Yuan said coldly. The female voice in the jade slip was silent for a moment, then said, "Yuan, you know that you can't be tempted, because you are my clan person." Fairy Yuan clenched her jade-like hands and said coldly, "I've obtained the heavenly heart scripture of Empress Wa for you. What about the freedom I want? When you become the successor of the goddess Mill, come back. I still need you. Besides, Jiu Tiezi's patience is limited." Fairy Yuan's delicate figure trembled violently when she heard this, and a wisp of ghastly white appeared on her pitilessly beautiful face. No, impossible. Fairy Yuan's lips were as pale as paper. Nothing is impossible. By the way, Gu Tiezi has sent out the 4 heavenly kings. There's going to be a show to watch. After that, the woman's voice fell silent. Fairy Yuan's delicate body slumped to the ground, and she covered her face with her jade-like hands. Young Master Jun, her dance was peerless, but she could only dance in her sad fate. On the ancient underworld planet, Jun Xiaoyaro was immersed in cultivation. For ordinary people, even if they obtained the Immortal Sutra, it would take a long time to comprehend it. However, Jun Xiaoyao's comprehension was monstrous to the extreme. For him, comprehending the Immortal Sutra would only take a little more time than cultivating the supreme great technique. In addition, Yang Ruming had also begun to refine the ancient blood. One could imagine that once her Skydream butterfly bloodline was completely awakened, her talent and strength would skyrocket. The Naga tribe had also begun to develop steadily, and their bloodline began to transform. The situation had stabilized for the time being. However, news about Jun Xiaoyaro began to spread throughout the ancient road. He killed a half-step great sage and blocked 3 attacks from a sacred leader. Even for outlawed sky prides, this was extremely unbelievable. The Holy Orchid sect's Shunghongi, the Holy Spirit Island's Mo Jinyu, and 4 of the 13 great bandits of the ancient road had all fallen at the hands of Jun Xiaoyao. These news were equally shocking. Unlike what was expected, the Holy Spirit Island and the Holy Orchid sect did not express any opinions and remained silent. Although it was difficult for immortal forces to intervene in the battle of the ancient road. However, one could imagine if Jun Xiaoyaro was a dark horse sky pride without any background. Perhaps in a few days, news would spread that Jun Xiaoyaro had been assassinated somewhere. It could only be said that the Jun family, the Jiang family, and the imperial court were 3 immortal forces that were extremely intimidating. Of course, news about Jun Xiaoyaro was the only thing that spread throughout the ancient road. There were also news about other super outlawed sky prides. For example, the Archean royalty's celestial silkworm valley had produced a rare 9 transformations celestial silkworm. This celestial silkworm was known as the 9 transformations celestial silkworm and was invincible. There was also the Sun God Mountain's 10 princes of Jinwu, who was known to be invincible, who had obtained a boundary emperor weapon in a secret place. There were rumors that his next goal was to capture the Moon God Palace's maiden sage, Yu Chanhuan, and obtain her Taiyin sacred constitution to cultivate the acquired chaotic constitution. Other than that, the supreme Xian Ting, Gu Tiezi of the Fuxi immortal lineage, possessed the legendary supreme Fuxi sacred constitution and had even digested the inheritance of an ancient great emperor. There was also the supreme Xian Ting, the empress of Empress Wa's immortal lineage. She was also unfathomable and was known to be one of the strongest among the younger generation on the ancient road. Even the 4 minor heavenly kings of the Xian Ting were top-notch existences among the outlawed sky prides. Each of them could sweep through an entire ancient road and set a terrifying record of killing outlawed sky prides. Some people saw the 4 minor heavenly kings of the Xian Ting moving together as if to complete some mission. This shocked many sky prides. Who could make the 4 minor heavenly kings of the supreme Xian Ting move together? Chapter 646. Jun Xiaoyao's temporary closed-door cultivation did not cause the entire ancient road to fall into silence. Instead, it was the rise of various kings and shining stars. There was the invincible overlord of the heavenly tyrant body, the mysterious successor of the immortal sect, Sheng Tianyi of the Gulan sect, the son of god of the Qin clan, Qin Wudao, and the killer of the Jin dynasty. Each of the super outlawed sky prides carried glory and legends, attracting the attention of everyone. Everyone was curious about who would be the one to reach the end of the ancient road. Of course, apart from these sky prides, those who belonged to Jun Xiaoyao's side had also made a name for themselves. Jiang Shengyi, Jiang Luoli, and the others were already goddess-like figures whose names spread throughout the ancient road. Their beauty and strength were on par with each other, earning the respect and admiration of countless people. There were also sequences like Lord Grimm and Jun Lingtsang. If it were not for Jun Xiaoyaro, the most outstanding young people of the Jun clan would definitely be them. This was because every generation of the Jun clan's sequence was extremely glorious, standing at the peak of their era. However, in this era, there was an anomaly, and that was Jun Xiaoyaro. His excellence and demonic talent surpassed all the previous Jun clan's sky prides. In the past, the appearance of someone as strong as Lord Grimm and Jun Lingtsang was enough to suppress the Jun clan's fortune for 10,000 years. However, even these demonic talents seemed a little dim in front of Jun Xiaoyao's brilliance. In addition, Jun Xiaoyao's followers, Yi Yu, Yang Qingying, Wang Chuan, and the others, had also made a name for themselves. Time passed, and in the blink of an eye, a year had passed. During this year, Jun Xiaoyaro had been in closed-door cultivation on the Tianming ancient star. While the metamorphosis was not a metamorphosis in terms of cultivation level, it was still extremely important to Jun Xiaoyaro. It was related to the 10th strand of divine qi and his path. If he succeeded, Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation level would not increase, but his strength would definitely skyrocket. During this period of time, many geniuses of the Huangtian mystic realm had already surpassed him and walked ahead of him. Jun Xiaoyaro wasn't in a hurry. To him, increasing his strength was much more important than rushing to complete the ancient road. Just as Jun Xiaoyaro was in seclusion. Ancient Final Road, 50th checkpoint. Compared to the 108 checkpoints on the ancient road of ultimate destination, the 50th stage was already more than half a century old. It could be considered a watershed. Those who could make it this far were all dragons and phoenixes among men. The 50th stage of the ancient road was also an extremely special location. This stage was not just a life-ancient star, but a vast sea of stars. Chaotic astral ocean. That was the name given to the sea of stars by the ancient roads chosen. As the name implied, this starry sea was filled with all kinds of danger and chaos. All sorts of people gathered there. But at the same time, it was also a place to stop in the middle of the ancient road of ultimate. All sorts of monsters were hiding there. Therefore, the chaotic astral ocean is also the most suitable place to hide. In an asteroid belt in the chaotic astral ocean, there was an incomparably majestic giant city located in it. The city was incomparably desolate and exuded an ancient aura. Starlight sprinkled down, and moonlight hung in the sky, making it look majestic and magnificent. This was a rather famous city in the chaotic astral ocean. There were incomplete ancient formation runes carved around it, so it was extremely safe. Even the star-devouring ancient beast couldn't swallow this city into its stomach. At this moment, in the city, a lively auction was being held in a bustling high-rise building. The chaotic astral ocean was the resting place in the middle of the ancient road of ultimate destination. Naturally, there were also some geniuses who would take out treasures and opportunities that they couldn't use to auction or exchange for other treasures. On the high platform, the auctioneer clapped his hands and said, "The next item to be auctioned is a batch of female slaves. All of them are top-notch goods." After saying that, a group of women with chains on their hands and feet stood up. They were of different shapes and sizes, and each had their own style. There were all kinds of races. However, they all had sorrowful expressions on their faces. Among them, there was a woman wearing an inconspicuous grey robe. Her appearance was ordinary, and her complexion was pale. She seemed to have suffered some sort of injury. There was nothing special about her. Her figure was also covered by the grey robe, making her look inconspicuous. "I'll take this one. I'll take that one." Soon, some of the beautiful female slaves on the stage were auctioned off. Only a few, including the grey-robed woman, remained. No one wanted them. Sigh. The auctioneer sighed softly when he saw this. These female slaves were not even worth auctioning off. They even had to feed them for free. "I'll just drive them away later and let them fend for themselves," the old man thought to himself. "All right, you all can leave." The old man waved his hand. Right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded. "I'll take that woman." 4 black-robed men walked out from the crowd. Their gazes were all fixed on the grey-robed woman. This. The old man was also surprised. The grey-robed woman was picked up by the people of their chamber of commerce several months ago. At that time, she was injured. However, because her appearance was ordinary, no one did anything to her. They only wanted to auction her off as an item. However, it was impossible for anyone to take a fancy to her. They did not expect that someone would take a fancy to her this time. In the next moment, the 4 black-robed men suddenly took off their robes. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light shone in all directions like the sun, blinding everyone's eyes. The 4 of them were all wearing dazzling golden armor. They had golden wings on their backs that were surrounded by flames. They are the Sun God Mountain's Golden Crow Celestial Guards. Some of the more knowledgeable geniuses could not help but exclaim. One of the Golden Crow Celestial Guards looked at the grey-robed woman, whose expression had changed, and sneered, "I didn't expect that the saintess of the moon god palace of the mystic heaven celestial realm would hide in the chaotic astral ocean and disguise herself as a slave. This is really unexpected." His words immediately made all the geniuses present feel suffocated. The auctioneer was even more dumbfounded. He was stunned on the spot. Whoosh! The grey-robed woman suddenly turned around and took off her robes. Runes flickered on her face as she peeled off a piece of skin. In an instant, a breathtakingly beautiful face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The woman in front of them had curved eyebrows, clear eyes, a tall nose, and moist red lips. Her skin was smooth, and her bones were like jade. It was as if she was a piece of beautiful jade made by nature. The woman's appearance was not the only thing that attracted everyone's attention. Her figure was also eye-catching. The grey-robed woman had previously covered her figure, but now it was exposed. Her blue dress outlined her impressive curves. Her breasts were full, and her waist was slender and round. Further down, her perky buttocks had a soul-stirring curve. All the male beasts present could not help but swallow their saliva. Their mouths were dry. She was clearly as beautiful as a fairy from the Moon Palace, but she had such an alluring pear-shaped figure. She was thin where she should be, and there was meat where she should be. Such a beautiful face paired with such a seductive figure was simply too attractive. Upon hearing the Golden Crow Celestial Guard's words, all the male beasts' eyes were filled with passion. She's the saintess of the Moon God Palace, Yu Chanhuan, who has the world's best cauldron body. Chapter 647. The Great Moon Body was ranked in the top 50 among the 3,000 body types. Not only was she extremely talented, but she could also absorb the power of the moon. More importantly, this type of body type was extremely beneficial for dual cultivation. Dual cultivation with the Great Moon Body would definitely increase one's cultivation by leaps and bounds, and one wouldn't suffer from kidney deficiency. This was because one would be nourished by the essence of the moon. What made the men even crazier was that women with this type of body type had certain parts that were different from other women's and were extremely rare. Of course, the Great Moon Body was also extremely rare, and there might not even be one or two in a deity realm. It was a treasure that all men dreamed of. At this moment, no one would have thought that the saintess of the moon god's palace would disguise herself as an ordinary female slave. Attack together. We must capture her this time and give her to the 10th prince. The 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards attacked together and unleashed the power of a late-stage saint. The Golden Crow Celestial Guards were an extremely elite troop from the Sun God Mountain. There weren't many of them, but each one of them was extremely well trained. It was rare for 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards to attack together to capture a young prodigy. It could only be said that to the 10 princes of Jinwu, Yu Chanhuan was something that they had to capture. Sun God Mountain, you've gone too far. Yu Chanhuan's face was fierce as she activated her body and unleashed the power of a late-stage saint. As she waved her hand, it was as if a full moon had appeared, carrying with it the light of the moon and the power of the moon. The 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards attacked at the same time like 4 blazing suns. Boom! Shockwaves exploded throughout the entire area, and many prodigies were pushed back. Cough! Yu Chanhuan let out a muffled groan as she took advantage of the momentum to retreat. She had been pursued all this time, and her injuries hadn't healed yet. It was impossible for her to kill the 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards. Seeing Yu Chanhuan flee, the 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards flapped their wings and turned into 4 streaks of golden light as they chased after her. Seeing Yu Chanhuan and the Golden Crow Celestial Guards leave in an instant, the prodigies in the auction house were dumbfounded. How is this possible? She's actually the holy maiden of the moon god palace and possesses the holy body of Great Moon. The auctioneer was dumbfounded. As he watched Yu Chanhuan leave, he felt as if a mountain of gold was leaving him. No, the holy body of Taiyin was a priceless treasure for men. It could not be measured by money. Many of the geniuses were pounding their chests and stamping their feet in regret. If I had known, I would have bid for her. That's right. Even if I can't really get close to her, I can at least say that the holy body of Taiyin was once my female slave. The #1 furnace in the world, the existence that all men dream of, actually slipped away right in front of my eyes. The old perverts at the scene regretted it so much that their intestines were green. A streak of light quickly flew out of the city and into the starry sky. Behind him, 4 golden streams of light chased after him. Yu Chanhuan, the moon god palace behind you is almost destroyed. You can escape now, but you can't escape forever. Why don't you submit to the 10th prince? A golden crow celestial guard shouted. That's right. What's wrong with the 10th prince? He also has the holy body of Taiyin. He's a match made in heaven with you. If you dual cultivate with the 10th prince, you may also obtain part of the chaotic body's power, another golden crow celestial guard shouted. Even if Chanhuan kills herself or feeds her body to the dogs, I will not let the 10th prince have his way. Yu Chanhuan's beautiful eyes were filled with hatred. She knew how attractive her body was to men. However, she had never thought that her body would bring disaster to the entire moon god palace. When she thought about how her master had chosen to self-destruct in order to cover the retreat, her heart was filled with guilt and hatred. All the tragedies originated from the 10th princes of Jinwu, a pitilessly talented, lawless person who could do whatever he wanted in the mystic heaven immortal realm. HMPH, how stubborn. If that's the case, we can only take you back by force. The 4 golden crow celestial guards snorted. In their opinion, it should be an extremely honorable thing to have the 10th prince's favor. Whoosh. One of the golden crow celestial guards took out an ancient weapon. It was a giant golden net made of golden silk. When it was cast, it sealed off the area. Yu Chanhuan's expression changed when she saw this. Suddenly, a palm print came from afar and blasted the giant golden net away. Who is it? The golden crow celestial guard shouted coldly, his eyes flashing coldly. In the distance, 2 otherworldly figures exuding a mysterious aura were flying toward them from the air. Oh, how lucky. I didn't expect to meet the 10th prince's dream girl. These 2 were young masters. One was dressed in a black robe while the other was dressed in a white robe. The 4 golden crow celestial guards looked solemn when they sensed their auras. There was no doubt that these 2 were outlawed sky prides. Yu Chanhuan's eyes showed a hint of joy. Things seemed to have taken a turn for the better. Who are you? One of the golden crow celestial guards asked solemnly. He, Sheng Yu Yi and Sheng Ju Yi of the Gulan sect. Haven't you heard of them? Sheng Ju Yi smiled faintly. What? They're the 2 saints of the Gulan sect. The 4 golden crow celestial guards' faces changed. There were 8 saints of the 8 sects. They were ranked according to heaven, earth, black, yellow, universe, and chaos. Sheng Huang Yi, the saint of the Huangtian immortal realm sect, had fallen. Sheng Hongyi was also killed by Jun Xiaoyaro outside the Temple of Doom. There were 6 saints left in the Gulan sect. Although Sheng Yu Yi and Sheng Ju Yi were not as powerful as Sheng Tianyi, who was ranked first among the 8 saints of the Gulan sect, they were still outlawed sky prides. Gentlemen, this woman is wanted by the 10 princes of Jinwu. We hope that the 2 saints will not interfere. One of the golden crow celestial guards cupped his fists and said. If anyone else dared to interfere, they would have killed them. However, the Gulan sect was too powerful. These 2 saints were not people that the 4 of them could deal with. Sheng Yu Yi did not care about the 4 golden crow celestial guards. The sun god mountain was powerful, but the Gulan sect was not to be trifled with. The 10 princes of the golden crow celestial guards were powerful enough to intimidate the ancient road. However, the saints of the 8 sects were not weak either. Therefore, they did not have to worry about the golden crow celestial guards. Chanhuan, thank you for your help, young masters, Yu Chanhuan said. Don't thank me yet. Yu Chanhuan, I can save you if you want, but there's no such thing as a free lunch in this world, right? As Sheng Yuyi spoke, his gaze swept up and down Yu Chanhuan's curvaceous body. Her breasts were perky, her waist was slender, and her butt was perky. No one else had such a figure. As expected of the legendary Great Moon Constitution, the #1 cauldron constitution in the world. Sheng Yuyi's eyes flashed with a hint of passion. Yu Chanhuan felt a chill in her heart when she sensed the two saints' gazes. Men were indeed jackals of the same tribe. We need the Great Moon Constitution to break through. As long as you are willing, we will save you. How about it? Sheng Yuyi said with a smile. Gentlemen, isn't this a little inappropriate? The Golden Crow Celestial Guard's eyes darkened. Yu Chanhuan was the woman the 10 princes of Jinwu wanted. These two saints were snatching food from a tiger's mouth. Sheng Yuyi ignored the Golden Crow Celestial Guards and looked at Yu Chanhuan. What do you say? Yu Chanhuan's eyes were as cold as ice. These two saints were taking advantage of her and forcing her to give up her body. How different were they from the 10 princes of Jinwu? No need, Yu Chanhuan said coldly. The smiles on the two chosen's faces slowly faded away. The 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards looked at each other and charged toward Yu Chanhuan at the same time. Just as Yu Chanhuan was about to fight to the death, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 9 arrows pierced through space and shattered planets as they shot toward the 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guard. Everyone from Sun God Mountain must die. An icy voice that sounded like the voice of a vengeful demon echoed in the galaxy. Chapter 648. Who is it? The expressions of the 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards changed. 2 sacred princes of the ancient orchid cult had just interfered, and now something else had happened. Did the heavens not want them to capture Yu Chanhuan? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The arrows carried boundless power as they pierced through the void. Each arrow could easily kill a saint. The eyes of the 4 Golden Crow Heavenly Guards suddenly widened when they saw the archery technique. There was a hint of astonishment in their eyes. This is the Yi race's divine power, 9-star alignment. The reason they could recognize this arrow art immediately was because of this. The Golden Crow Celestial Guards had been sent out when Sun God Mountain started the War of Immortality against the Yi race. They had a deep impression of the Yi race's godlike arrow art. This 9-star alignment was the Yi clan's signature archery divine ability. The Emperor of the Yi race had used this move to shoot down 9 golden crows in the sky. Because of this, Sun God Mountain and the Yi race had a blood feud. The Yi race had weakened during the ancient era, and they had even lost the Hu Yi bow. This gave Sun God Mountain a chance to start the War of Immortality and destroy the Yi race. Only a small number of Yi race members were left behind, and they fled like dogs. The 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards didn't expect to meet the Yi race on the ancient road. This was too unbelievable. Of course, even though they were thinking about it, they still did their best to block the attack. However, whoosh, arrows pierced through the chests of the Golden Crow Celestial Guards. That terrifying shooting power could simply shoot down the sun, moon, and stars. How is this possible? How can the Yi race have such a strong member? One of the Golden Crow Celestial Guards spat out blood in disbelief. Most of the Yi race's experts and prodigies with strong bloodlines should have been killed in that War of Immortality. The few that escaped wouldn't have been able to do anything. The heavens let me live so that I can witness the destruction of Sun God Mountain. Following the cold voice, a young man holding the Star Execution Bow of Destruction walked over with a murderous aura. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and a golden sun totem was branded on his upper body. His eyes glowed with a golden light. It was the golden eyes of delusion. They were as sharp as an eagle's and could see through all illusions. This was Jun Xiaoyao's follower, the successor of the ancient monarch clan, the Yi clan, Yi Yu. You're the successor of the Yi clan. You're actually still alive. The minds of the 4 Golden Crow Celestial Guards buzzed when they saw Yi Yu. Before starting the undying war against the Yi race, they had already received orders. That successor of the Yi clan must be killed. Because he had the strongest bloodline of Yi Shun. Yi Shun, same as Luo Shun and Mi Fei, was a super forbidden being at the level of legendary emperors. Needless to say, a genius with a thick bloodline of the mythological monarch was incredibly talented. If they did not eliminate the source of trouble, there would be no end of trouble. However, they didn't expect that the upper echelons of the Yi clan were frantically protecting Yi Yu and the others as they fled. In the end, after an unknown period of time, the Sun God Mountain thought that this descendant of the Yi clan had completely fallen. Who would have thought that he would appear alive in front of them now? How could I be willing to die as long as the Sun God Mountain is not destroyed? Fortunately, I've encountered the most important turning point in my life. Yi Yu looked at the 4 golden crows with a cold gaze. The turning point he was referring to was naturally becoming Jun Xiaoyao's follower. Only Jun Xiaoyao had the ability to completely destroy the Sun God Mountain. Now, I'll collect some interest. Yi Yu drew his bow again and shot an arrow. The 4 late-stage golden crows did not have much power to resist and were shot to death amidst screams. That person is also an outlawed sky pride. Shengyu Yi and Shengju Yi frowned. They did not expect the situation to change like this. The reason why Yi Yu had become so powerful was that his Yishan bloodline had begun to awaken. On the other hand, it was also because Jun Xiaoyao had given him enough seals of proving of the way, which allowed his powers to transform. On top of that, Yi Yu had also found many opportunities on the ultimate ancient road. This allowed his strength to reach the level of an outlawed sky pride. Yi Yu, you're still alive. Yu Chanhuan looked at Yi Yu with a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. The Yi clan and the Moon God Palace were both forces in the mystic heaven immortal realm. She and Yi Yu were the most outstanding young people in their respective forces. She had seen Yi Yu a few times at some Sky Pride banquets, but they did not have much interaction. When the Yi clan was destroyed, Yu Chanhuan sighed. Who would have thought that it would be the Moon God Palace's turn later? It could only be said that fate made fools of people. Looks like the Moon God Palace is following in their footsteps. Yi Yu glanced at Yu Chanhuan without much emotion in his eyes. Yu Chanhuan was indeed very beautiful and very attractive to men. However, Yi Yu only had 2 goals in mind now, to take revenge on the Sun God Mountain and to work hard to keep up with Jun Xiaoyao's footsteps. If I knew this would happen, the Moon God Palace would have joined forces with the Yi clan. Sigh. Yu Chanhuan sighed softly. Yi Yu's arrival made her feel a little more at ease. Although they did not have much interaction, they had at least met a few times. Yi Yu's character was well known in the mystic heaven immortal realm. At this time, a discordant voice sounded. Who are you? Why are you meddling in our business? The person who spoke was Shengyu Yi. I'm just killing people who deserve to be killed. Yi Yu did not bother to talk to them. Yi Yu, let's go first. Yu Chanhuan gave him a look and whispered. Wait, Yu Chanhuan, we helped you once before. You can't just leave like this, right? Shengyu Yi's eyes revealed a playful look. Yi Yu also came back to his senses and understood. After all, Yu Chanhuan was the #1 beauty in the mystic heaven immortal realm and had a peerless furnace physique. There was probably no man who did not want to covet her body. Of course, there was no man who could make Yu Chanhuan willingly give her body. Let's go. Yi Yu said straightforwardly. Impudent, we are talking to the fairy. How dare you interrupt? Shengyu Yi made a move. Terrifying spiritual power surged and turned into a giant hand that covered the sky. How could he let the fatty meat that was about to be eaten slip away? The giant hand that covered the sky stretched out as if it included the stars in the universe. After all, Shengyu Yi was one of the 8 holy sons of the ancient Orchid sect. His means were extraordinary. Yi Yu turned around and drew his bow. The arrow roared out like a real dragon, shaking the starry sky. Shengyu Yi also made a move. He wanted to suppress Yi Yu in the shortest time possible and snatch Yu Chanhuan away. Damn it, if I wasn't seriously injured. Yu Chanhuan clenched her jade-like hands. As the sacred body of Taiyin, her strength was not weak. It was just that being chased all the way had exhausted her mental strength and caused her to be seriously injured. Rumble. In the starry sky, a great battle broke out. Yi Yu fought against 2 enemies alone and managed to hold on for a short time. This made Sheng Yu Yi and Sheng Yu Yi a little surprised. Where did this monster come from? I have never heard of him before. The 2 holy sons were suspicious. Yi Yu's eyes flashed. He also understood. Although he was not weak, it was a little difficult to kill the 2 holy sons of the ancient Orchid sect. Thinking of this, Yi Yu took out a talisman. The talisman burned in the void and turned into a strong force of space, blessing Yi Yu and Yu Chanhuan. The void behind them distorted, and in an instant, the 2 of them disappeared without a trace. Damn it, he actually has such a treasure. Sheng Yu Yi's face was extremely ugly. Sheng Yu Yi's face was also gloomy. A fat little white sheep escaped just like that. It's okay. As long as the 10 princes of Jinwu are still chasing them, they will eventually reveal themselves. When that time comes, we will act according to the situation, Sheng Yu Yi said. We must get this woman. If we don't get a taste of this weapon, I will not be satisfied. Sheng Yu Yi was unwilling to give up. Chapter 649. Chaotic Astral Ocean. Somewhere in the unknown starry sky, 2 space vortexes appeared, and Yi Yu and Yu Chanhuan emerged from them. Gulan sect, I will remember this. Yi Yu's golden eyes flashed with a cold light. Thank you, Yu Chanhuan said. Without Yi Yu's help, she would have either been captured by the Golden Crow Celestial Guards and presented to the 10th Prince or humiliated by the 2 saints. She couldn't accept either outcome. It's okay. We have a common enemy, Yi Yu said. Sun God Mountain? Now that the forces behind us are almost destroyed, I don't know if we will have the chance to take revenge. Yu Chanhuan's beautiful eyes showed a touch of sadness. As an overlord force in the Shentian celestial realm, the Sun God Mountain's foundation and power were unquestionable. Otherwise, the 10 princes of Jinwu wouldn't be so domineering. Now that the Yi clan and the Moon God Palace were almost destroyed, only a few people were left outside, and they couldn't do much. It was almost wishful thinking to deal with the Sun God Mountain. Maybe not. If my master is willing, it doesn't seem to be too difficult to destroy the Sun God Mountain. Yi Yu's eyes flashed. What? Yu Chanhuan's beautiful face showed a touch of surprise. Yi Yu was once a top genius in the Shentian celestial realm, the successor of the Emperor clan. His character was also famous for being cold and unruly. Now, he had submitted to someone and become a follower? To Yu Chanhuan, this was simply unbelievable. In addition, Yi Yu said that his master wouldn't need to spend too much effort to destroy the Sun God Mountain. This was simply bragging without a draft. The Sun God Mountain was so powerful that even Yi Yu's master, the successor of an immortal force, was not qualified to say such words. Furthermore, whether or not the master behind him could defeat the Golden Crow 10th Prince was another matter. What, do you think I'm bragging? Seeing Yu Chanhuan's expression, Yi Yu raised his eyebrows and asked. No, Yu Chanhuan said. No matter what, Yi Yu was her savior. She had no room to question. She wanted to ask who was the master behind Yi Yu, but she was afraid that if her lie was exposed, Yi Yu would be embarrassed. Therefore, Yu Chanhuan didn't ask anything. I don't know if his master can deal with the 10 princes of Jinwu. As for destroying the Sun God Mountain, Yu Chanhuan sighed inwardly. Right, what do you plan to do next? Yi Yu asked. Naturally, I have to recover from my injuries and become stronger. Yu Chanhuan's beautiful eyes revealed a resolute expression. She was also a woman with a resolute character. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to resist the 10 princes of Jinwu for so long. Oh, that's right. I heard the people in the auction house say that the boat of good fortune seemed to have appeared in the chaotic astral ocean. There are all kinds of sacred medicines, ancient inheritances, natural oddities, and even a complete source of a small world. If we can enter it, our strength will undergo a transformation, said Yu Chanhuan. The boat of destiny? Sure, wait until I become stronger. I won't let any of the 10 princes of the Golden Crow go. Yi Yu Shi God's eyes were filled with hatred. His revenge against the Sun God Mountain would begin with the 10 princes of the Golden Crow. After that, Yu Chanhuan also took out a jade slip to send a message. With Yi Yu by her side, her situation was temporarily stabilized. She could also send a message to the Taiyin Jade Hair. However, the message from the Taiyin Jade Hair made Yu Chanhuan slightly stunned. What? There will be a super powerful person coming to save me? Yu Chanhuan was very confused. She even felt that the Taiyin Jade Hair might have been abducted by some glib-tongue swindler. Forget it. Yu Chanhuan didn't dwell on it. After that, Yu Chanhuan and Yi Yu hid in the chaotic astral ocean and waited for the boat of destiny to appear. Fortunately, the chaotic astral ocean was vast and there were all kinds of people. If the 10 princes of Jinwu wanted to search for them, it would take a long time. Heavenly Underworld Ancient Star. In the past year, the Serpent Men tribe had undergone a great change. Saints and supreme saints popped up one after another like bamboo shoots after a rain. Even a few saint sovereigns had appeared. All of this was due to the ancient blood. Queen Medusa had also successfully broken through to the quasi-supreme realm. It wasn't that it was easy to break through to the quasi-supreme realm. It was that Queen Medusa had accumulated a lot of energy. Previously, due to the limitations of her bloodline, she had been stuck at the Sacred Lord realm. Now that she had obtained the ancient blood, she had also successfully broken through to the quasi-supreme realm. Moreover, this wasn't her limit. It could be said that the strength of the entire Serpent Men tribe had increased by more than 10 times compared to before. All of this was brought to them by Jun Xiaoyao. Now, every Serpent Man tribe member only had fanatical worship and gratitude for Jun Xiaoyao. Even if Jun Xiaoyao wanted them to die, they wouldn't hesitate. Master, all of this is your gift. Queen Medusa muttered to herself as she looked at the palace where Jun Xiaoyao was in seclusion. Her long and narrow beautiful eyes revealed respect, worship, gratitude, and a faint trace of admiration and love. Queen Medusa knew that she wasn't worthy of Jun Xiaoyao. But as long as she could serve Jun Xiaoyao forever and be loyal to him, she would be satisfied. And at this moment, the palace where Jun Xiaoyao was in seclusion suddenly trembled. A terrifying aura swept across the place. This pressure wasn't the pressure of a cultivation realm. Instead, it was an incomparably noble pressure that seemed to have transcended the level of life. Is Master coming out of seclusion? Queen Medusa's eyes revealed a look of surprise. This pressure caused the entire Serpent Men tribe to be in an uproar. Countless Serpent Men looked at the palace where Jun Xiaoyao was in shock and admiration. A dense immortal qi spread out. Flowers fell from the sky, golden lotuses bloomed on the ground, and great Tao runes intertwined. Although it wasn't a breakthrough in cultivation realm, it gave people the feeling that the scene was even greater than breaking through to the supremacy realm. Is this really our benefactor cultivating? Why do I feel like a supremacy is coming out of seclusion? An elder of the Serpent Men tribe sighed. At this moment, in the palace, Jun Xiaoyao, who had been silent for more than a year, finally opened his deep eyes. A misty immortal qi appeared on the surface of his body. This immortal qi was misty, and it seemed to contain the universe, stars, mountains, rivers, grass, flowers, birds, insects, and fish. Countless scenes appeared. It carried great Tao runes, and the power of creation surged. Jun Xiaoyao had broken through the limit of 9 and condensed the 10th immortal qi. Creation Immortal Qi. With the Creation Immortal Sutra, he comprehended the Tao of creation and condensed Creation Immortal Qi. At this moment, Jun Xiaoyao felt as if he could shape the universe and change it with a single hand. If news of the 10th Immortal Qi spread, the entire ancient road would be in an uproar. Jun Xiaoyao, as an outlier, had once again created an unprecedented miracle. Chapter 650. 10 strands of immortal qi was enough to stun everyone. Even outlawed skyprides and super outlawed skyprides could not reach this level. Even some young great emperors and young ancient emperors could not reach this level. Jun Xiaoyao, on the other hand, was able to do so with ease. 10 strands of immortal qi, huh? Why do I feel like it's not enough? Jun Xiaoyao said softly. To him, there was no such thing as a limit. If he wanted to continue condensing, he could continue to do so. Of course, Jun Xiaoyao had not only condensed the immortal qi of creation in the past year or so. Most importantly, The divine origin in his dantian had undergone a metamorphosis. Looking inside at the moment, one could see that the interior of Zhun Xiaoyao's God's origin had expanded from a chaotic state into an empty miniature universe. The universe was empty. There was nothing in it. However, the power of the natural order was operating. It was not the natural order of the nine heavens' immortal realm, nor was it the natural order of any other world. It was Zhun Xiaoyao's own natural order. He could control everything in the miniature universe with a single thought. Of course, there was nothing in the miniature universe at the moment. It was empty. Without the immortal scripture of creation, it would take me a lot of time to condense this miniature universe, Zhun Xiaoyao said to himself. The immortal scripture of creation allowed Zhun Xiaoyao to comprehend the power of creation. It allowed him to create his own inner universe in just over a year. Then, Zhun Xiaoyao's heart moved. The jade disk of creation directly entered the inner universe. Zhun Xiaoyao was immediately able to sense that the inner universe, which had been rather unstable, had stabilized. The jade disk of creation was like a stabilizing needle that stabilized the entire inner universe. Only supremes and above can start to create a spatial world. However, they can only do so with the help of the natural order of the immortal realm. Right now, this innerverse completely belongs to me, Zhun Xiaoyao. My will is everything in this innerverse, Zhun Xiaoyao said as he came to a realization. Of course, this inner universe was still relatively simple. There was not even a sun, moon, or stars, let alone living beings. It was completely empty. According to the records in the immortal scripture of creation, the world is composed of the four elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. I need to find the four extraordinary items to create the framework of the inner universe, Zhun Xiaoyao thought to himself. The four extraordinary items referred to the extraordinary items of the four elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. The living soil of the nine heavens, rootless water, indestructible divine fire, and wind of the Taishu. These four mystical items would be extremely rare in the Huangtian mystic realm. However, there was no lack of opportunities on the ultimate ancient road. As such, Zhun Xiaoyao was able to collect them with ease. Once the framework to him, he could continue to nourish it qi of creation. Zhun Xiaoyao's strength was to God. Of the creation. If others were to find out that Zhun Xiaoyao was able to create his own inner universe when he was still a saint, their jaws would definitely drop. Supremes to supremes and to the supremes. However, what Zhun Xiaoyao wanted to create was a real universe. Although my cultivation did not improve from the origin of God to the inner universe, my strength is several times stronger than before, Zhun Xiaoyao thought to himself. He was measuring his strength. A casual attack could trigger the power of the rules of the inner universe and unleash a terrifying power. It was Zhun Xiaoyao's Tao. It was still incomparable to the heavenly Tao of the nine heavens immortal realm or the foreign realm. However, he was confident that his will would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the heavens in the future, surpassing the heavens. Zhun Xiaoyao's body shuddered. It felt like the power of the world was flowing out of his body. It was the second volume of the Physique scripture, the 3000 Sumeru worlds. Zhun Xiaoyao refined the chaos origin crystal, the qi of creation, and other energies. He also used the Tao of creation he had comprehended from the immortal scripture of creation. He had successfully turned a cell in his body into a miniature Sumeru world. That being said, the miniature Sumeru world and Zhun Xiaoyao's inner universe were two different concepts. Zhun Xiaoyao pondered for a moment before using his finger as a sword all of a sudden and pointing it at his chest. A terrifying force penetrated Zhun Xiaoyao's body. Zhun Xiaoyao's body shuddered as he unleashed the power of the Sumeru world. The force penetrated the Sumeru world and shook it vigorously. However, it was unable to break free from the Sumeru world. Zhun Xiaoyao exclaimed, "What a formidable defense! You've only managed to cultivate one Sumeru world. If you were to cultivate 3000 Sumeru worlds, then even if I were to just stand there and let others attack me, it would probably take me days and nights to break through." The 3000 Sumeru worlds did not only have strong defense. Zhun Xiaoyao threw a punch forward. The power of a Sumeru world was imbued into his fist. In an instant, The void distorted and then collapsed. It was as if the power of the entire world had surged out, combining attack and defense into one. It seems that in the future, besides finding ways to expand the inner universe, I'll have to refine 3,000 Sumeru worlds. Jun Xiaoyaro thought about his future cultivation direction. During this closed-door training, Jun Xiaoyaro had comprehended the power of creation. He had refined the immortal chi of creation, opened up the inner universe, and even cultivated a Sumeru world. It could be said that he had achieved great success. His strength had also skyrocketed once again. It's time to leave. The real exciting part of the ancient ultimate road has yet to come. Jun Xiaoyaro stood up and left the palace. Outside, Queen Medusa, Bai Ling, and the others were already waiting respectfully. The Taiyin jade hare was also waiting outside the palace. Her eyes were filled with excitement and anxiety. After a while, Jun Xiaoyaro pushed open the door and walked out. Immortal light overflowed in all directions. Jun Xiaoyaro leisurely stepped out like a celestial figure from a painting. Her graceful bearing caused everyone present to hold their breaths. Queen Medusa's beautiful eyes were filled with deep respect and admiration. Bai Ling and the Taiyin jade hare were also stunned. They were drooling. Jun Xiaoyaro was as handsome as ever, but his aura was even more profound. He had an otherworldly immortal aura. It was as if he was about to ascend. It seems that the Naga tribe has developed well in the past year. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced indifferently. Queen Medusa had reached the quasi-supreme level. The Green Snake General had also reached the Holy Lord level. There were also more than 10 Holy Lords and great sages. The Naga tribe was more than 10 times stronger than before. It's all thanks to Master. Without Master, the Naga tribe wouldn't be here today. Queen Medusa hurriedly went forward and bowed. Although she was already a quasi-supreme, she was still respectful and humble to Jun Xiaoyaro like a servant. There's no need to be so polite. From now on, you'll all be part of the Emperor Royal Court. Jun Xiaoyaro waved his hand. On the side, the Taiyin jade hare bounced and said, young master, you haven't touched me for more than a year. I'm so bored and lonely. Ha! Jun Xiaoyaro patted the Taiyin jade hare's head. By the way, young master, young mistress finally sent a message. She's in the chaotic astral ocean. The Taiyin jade hare looked excited and anxious. Got it. Jun Xiaoyaro nodded. Also, Sister Fairy Yuan sent a message saying that the 13 bandits seem to have a secret stronghold hidden in the chaotic astral ocean. The Taiyin jade hare continued. It's convenient to get them all together. Let's deal with them together. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed. Next, he was ready to go to the chaotic astral ocean. Although Jun Xiaoyaro didn't have any thoughts about the Cauldron Constitution, he was indeed a little interested in the Taiyin Immortal Sutra. At this moment, a powerful fluctuation suddenly spread out from a palace in the distance. The crowd turned their gazes over and immediately saw an incomparably enormous, translucent butterfly floating above the palace. The butterfly's wings were 9-colored and looked beautiful with a mysterious and dreamy feeling. It seems that Yang Rumeng has also succeeded in awakening, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Chapter 651. Yang Rumeng's true form was the Skydream bewitching butterfly. Along with the crack demonic butterfly and the immemorial emperor butterfly, it was one of the most ancient and noble lineages of the demon race. Before, Yang Rumeng hadn't awakened her bloodline, so she didn't manifest the Skydream bewitching butterfly's ability. But now, Yang Rumeng, who had the support of the ancient blood, had finally awakened her bloodline completely. The 9-colored Skydream bewitching butterfly floating in the void flapped its wings, and rainbow-colored pollen flowed out. Wherever it passed, the ordinary serpent men were unable to resist and fainted on the ground. Even the saint-level elders of the serpent men tribe fell into a dream and couldn't extricate themselves. In fact, even great saints and sacred leaders were affected by it. The Green Serpent General also seemed to have fallen into a dream. Such strong power, this is the path of illusion? Queen Medusa's eyes were filled with shock. That was because she discovered that even with her cultivation as a quasi-supreme, she was actually faintly falling into some sort of dream. The Taiyin jade hare was even more unbearable, and a silly smile appeared on her white and delicate face. Carrots, so many carrots, all carrots. Have I come to a carrot planet? The tie-in jade hare laughed foolishly, and nibbled on her little hand as if she was nibbling on a carrot. The only person who wasn't affected at all was Jun Xiaoyao. Jun Xiaoyao's primordial spirit was extremely powerful, and he cultivated the chaotic divine grindstone visualization method and the 3 Lives Immortal Sutra. His primordial spirit was also the best of the 3 lives primordial spirits. This path of illusion couldn't affect him. As expected of the skydream bewitching butterfly. It's rumored that when a mature skydream bewitching butterfly flaps its wings, all living beings on an ancient life planet will fall into a dream and be unable to extricate themselves. Jun Xiaoyao also showed a hint of admiration. In just a moment, the skydream bewitching butterfly in the air disappeared. All the serpent men who had fallen into a dream also regained their senses, and their eyes were filled with confusion. What's going on? I feel like I had a very long dream. It feels like 100 years have passed. The tie-in jade hare also came back to her senses and cried out in pain, "Ouch, my hand." In her dream, the tie-in jade hare nibbled on her snow-white hands like carrots, until they were red and swollen. In the distance, the palace door was pushed open. A beautiful woman with a graceful body and a flawless face appeared. Her pink dress fluttered in the wind, and her fine black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her skin was as smooth as snow, and her legs were long and slender. Perhaps it was because she had completely awakened her bloodline, but Yang Rumeng had an even more dreamy and ethereal temperament. She looked like a fairy from a dream, beautiful and moving. Yang Rumeng swayed her slender waist and walked in front of Jun Xiaoyao. Immortal qi vaguely appeared on the surface of her body. This was the immortal qi condensed from the Tao of illusions. What's wrong? I'm so beautiful that you're stunned. Yang Rumeng smiled and waved her lily-white hand in front of Jun Xiaoyao's eyes. After awakening her bloodline, she was even more beautiful than before. Her red lips and jade-like teeth shone with a crystalline luster, and her slender neck made her look like a flower. At this moment, her smile could topple cities, and she was full of charm. She thought that Jun Xiaoyao would pour cold water on her as usual. However, Jun Xiaoyao nodded slightly and said, "You are indeed very beautiful." This made Yang Rumeng blush suddenly appear on her jade-like cheeks. I was careless. I actually felt like I was being seduced. Yang Rumeng bit her lips, and her eyes were watery. However, what surprised her was that she originally thought that after awakening her skydream butterfly bloodline, the gap between her and Jun Xiaoyao wouldn't be too big. However, at this moment, Jun Xiaoyao was enveloped in immortal light, and his aura was even more profound and unfathomable. What a monster! No matter how much I cultivate, I can't catch up to you. Yang Rumeng was a little annoyed. Jun Xiaoyao smiled faintly and changed the topic. By the way, didn't you say that if I help you awaken your bloodline, you will join the Emperor Hall? Isn't it time to fulfill your promise now? Previously, although Yang Rumeng had the demon emperor body, Jun Xiaoyao wasn't too interested in her. However, the current Yang Rumeng was different. She was qualified to be roped in by him. When Yang Rumeng heard that, she smiled sweetly and said, "Sure, but I want to work under you." "No, under you." "Okay, as long as you can keep up with my rhythm." Jun Xiaoyao said. "I should be able to keep up. As long as your rhythm is not too fierce and unbearable, it will be fine." Yang Rumeng said weakly. At the side, the tie-in jade hare blinked her big red eyes. "I am still a child. I don't understand anything." After Jun Xiaoyao and Yang Rumeng successfully broke through, they were ready to leave. After learning that Jun Xiaoyao was going to leave, all of the serpent men were reluctant to part with him. Queen Medusa and Bai Ling were even more upset and lost. "You all stay in the Tianming Ancient Star. After I finish the Ancient Ultimate Road, I will send someone to transfer you to the Huangtian Mystic Realm to join the Emperor Hall." Jun Xiaoyao said. "Thank you, Master. We, the Naga tribe, will never forget your kindness," Queen Medusa said. Her long and narrow beautiful eyes also revealed a hint of reluctance. In the past, Queen Medusa thought that she would probably dedicate her life to the Naga tribe. She had never even thought about personal relationships. Queen Medusa also didn't think that any opposite sex would make her heart flutter. But now, looking at the handsome and immortal-like Jun Xiaoyaro in front of her, she couldn't help but feel moved. She admitted that her heart fluttered. But Queen Medusa also knew that it was enough for her to be Jun Xiaoyao's subordinate. In the future, she would not only dedicate her life to the Naga tribe, but also to Jun Xiaoyaro. Jun Xiaoyaro, Tai-yin Jade Hair, and Yang Rumeng left. They drove the starry sky flying ship and traveled through the void. Along the way, they encountered teleportation formations on some ancient stars. This greatly reduced the amount of time they had to travel. Soon, more than half a year had passed. Jun Xiaoyaro and the others didn't encounter any danger along the way. Even Yang Rumeng was a little speechless. Previously, when she was alone on the ancient ultimate road, she was cautious and careful. She often encountered danger. Now, however, walking along the ancient path with Jun Xiaoyaro was like looking at the scenery on horseback. All the dangers along the way were eliminated by Jun Xiaoyaro. For others, the ancient ultimate road was full of danger and death, but for Jun Xiaoyaro, it was as simple as playing house. Yang Rumeng finally understood why the people around Jun Xiaoyaro didn't come to him. Being with Jun Xiaoyaro, they couldn't gain any experience at all. They felt very safe. And in this safe and boring situation, Jun Xiaoyaro and the others finally arrived at the 50th checkpoint of the ancient ultimate road. Chaotic astral ocean. Looking at the rolling vast sea of stars in the distance, even Jun Xiaoyaro couldn't help but sigh at the wonders of the universe. The entire chaotic astral ocean stretched across the universe. It was incomparably vast, like a dividing line that separated the front and back of the ancient ultimate road. It was like the Chu River and Han boundary in chess. As for this chaotic astral ocean, it was also filled with people from all walks of life and all kinds of chaos. According to the news from the fairy kite, the stronghold of the 13 bandits is located in a place called the Sinful Pit in the chaotic astral ocean. That place is full of chaos and is the gathering place of all kinds of bandits, villains, and demonic cultivators. This time, the 13 bandits won't be able to escape from my hands. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were deep as he looked into the distance. The 13 bandits of the ancient road, who made people tremble in fear, were like ants in Jun Xiaoyao's mouth. Chapter 652. The galaxy was vast and mighty, rolling in the universe. As far as the eye could see, there was a dazzling light, like the flowing Milky Way. "What's your next plan?" Yang Rumeng asked. Jun Xiaoyaro took out a mask and put it on his face. It was a ghost mask, looking like crying and laughing. It looked funny, clumsy, and a little scary. When Yang Rumeng saw this, she was slightly stunned. Then, she burst out laughing. The son of God of the Jun family is wearing such a clumsy and weird mask, like a child's toy. "Are you trying to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger?" Jun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. The 13 bandits' intelligence is not weak, and this is one of their strongholds. I'm afraid they have spies all over the chaotic astral ocean. If we are as unscrupulous as before, I'm afraid the 13 bandits will get the news as soon as we enter the chaotic astral ocean. That will alert the enemy. I don't want to come here for nothing. Yang Rumeng withdrew her smile and nodded. The 13 bandits were related to the foreign realm, so they needed to be careful. If they entered with great fanfare, the 13 bandits would retreat immediately after getting the news. At that time, it would be like drawing water with a sieve. However, what Yang Rumeng didn't know was that Jun Xiaoyaro wore the ghost mask for another reason. He learned about it from the fairy kite. The immortal killing bandit also wore a ghost mask and had the ability to devour bloodlines. Jun Xiaoyaro couldn't help but think of that person. The ghost mask girl's shadow left in the heavenly Dao Tower, and the ghost mask woman on the hero spirit altar in the lower bound. There was also the ghost mask left in the bronze immortal palace in the eternal burial ground. Now there was another immortal killing bandit wearing a ghost mask. There was also the Parameter organization and the foreign realm. All of these seemed to be connected by a thread in the dark. Jun Xiaoyaro wore the ghost mask because he wanted to know if he really met the immortal killing bandit. How would the immortal extermination bandit react? Jun Xiaoyaro looked at the flawless face of Yang Rumeng and shook his head. All right, you should cover it up too. You're too beautiful. It's too ostentatious. Bringing such a great beauty to the chaotic astral ocean was undoubtedly like a torch in the dark night, attracting gazes from all directions. Hihi, although I know you don't mean anything else, why do I still feel so happy? Yang Rumeng laughed. She wouldn't feel anything if she was praised by an ordinary man. However, being praised by a godlike figure like Jun Xiaoyao, even if it was Yang Rumeng, her vanity would be satisfied and she would be very happy. She took out a white veil and put it on her face, revealing only a pair of limpid eyes. Not only did the veil not diminish her charm, it made Yang Rumeng even more hazy and beautiful. After some preparations, Jun Xiaoyao and the other two entered the chaotic astral ocean. The chaotic astral ocean was vast and boundless. Ordinary sky prides would not dare to enter it alone. If they were not careful, they would be sucked into the void vortex. Worse still, they might be devoured by terrifying beings like the star-devouring ancient beasts. Generally speaking, sky prides would travel in groups or with some caravans. Jun Xiaoyao and the others had encountered 3 waves of interstellar bandits in the 10 days since they entered the chaotic astral ocean. Splat! Jun Xiaoyao pointed his finger, and a saint-level bandit in front of him exploded into a mist of blood. Meanwhile, in another part of the starry sky, several young sky prides were stunned. They looked at the scene in front of them with disbelief. Which outlawed sky pride killed a saint-level powerhouse so casually? He's wearing a mask. Could he be a powerhouse from the older generation? These young sky prides were traveling together when they unexpectedly encountered interstellar bandits. Just as they were in despair, they saw Jun Xiaoyao and the others passing by. Those bandits attacked right away without saying a word, yet they were all killed by Jun Xiaoyao with a wave of his hand. If we follow this senior, we'll be able to reach Titanic Crescent City safely, said one of the female geniuses. They looked at each other and hurried forward to catch up with Jun Xiaoyao and the others who were about to leave. Senior, please wait, the female sky pride said. What's the matter? Jun Xiaoyao asked calmly. His gentle voice stunned the young sky prides. He's not from the older generation? The few of them looked at each other with shock in their eyes. Even an outlawed sky pride from the younger generation could not kill a saint-level powerhouse so easily, right? Could he be a supreme outlawed cultivator? When they thought of this possibility, the sky prides looked even more respectful and humble. Although they came from some major forces, they did not dare to show any disrespect in front of this mysterious young powerhouse. Sir, are you also rushing to Titanic City because of the business alliance of 10,000 tribes summoning order? The female sky pride bowed and asked. Business alliance of 10,000 tribes summoning order? What does that mean? Jun Xiaoyao stroked the tie-in jade hair in his arms and said calmly. Hearing this, the sky prides looked at each other in surprise. Another sky pride said, perhaps you don't know, but some time ago, the second lady of the business alliance of 10,000 tribes Xia clan, Xia Chuqing, was kidnapped by the sinful pit's first sinner. Now, the Xia clan has issued a summoning order to gather a group of cultivators in Titanic City to conquer the sinful pit. I heard that those who are willing to join will be rewarded handsomely. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed under the mask when he heard the young sky pride's explanation. Isn't gathering a group to go to the sinful pit on the way? Moreover, if Jun Xiaoyao entered the sinful pit alone, it would inevitably cause conflict and attract attention. If the 13 bandits detected him in advance, it would alert the enemy. However, if he entered with the large group, he could hide among them and then find the stronghold of the 13 bandits and destroy them with thunderous means. We can give it a try, Yang Rumeng, whose face was covered with a veil, said. What a beautiful woman! The young sky prides were stunned. Although Yang Rumeng's face was covered with a veil, her eyes were watery, her figure was slender, and her legs were white and slender. There was no need to guess that she was a devastatingly beautiful woman. Yang Rumeng smiled slightly, and the sky prides suddenly fell into a trance, as if they had fallen into a dream. Okay, let's go, Jun Xiaoyao said softly. Only then did the heavens' favorites come back to their senses. Their faces were full of embarrassment. They naturally didn't know that Yang Rumeng, who had awakened the bloodline of the Skydream butterfly, could affect one's mind with every frown and smile. Only someone like Jun Xiaoyaro, who had a powerful primordial spirit, was completely immune to it. Then, Jun Xiaoyaro, Yang Ruming, and the Taiyin Jade Hair were led by the young Sky Prides to Titanic City. Chapter 653. Most of the areas in the chaotic astral ocean were very dangerous. Only the ancient cities were slightly safer. Of course, most of these ancient cities were in the outer regions of the chaotic astral ocean. The central and inner regions of the chaotic astral ocean were dangerous places that could not be easily set foot in. In some places, even sacred rulers or 9 heavens supremes would be in danger. The Titanic Crescent City was a rather magnificent city in the outer regions of the chaotic astral ocean. In less than half a month, Jun Xiaoyaro arrived at the Titanic Crescent City under the lead of several heavens prides. The Titanic Crescent City was situated on a small planet. The city walls were as winding as a mountain range and were made of meteoric iron. Ancient formation patterns were imprinted on them and glowed faintly. The city gates were extremely tall and there was an endless stream of people coming and going. Perhaps because of the convening order of the Business Alliance of 10,000 clans, the flow of people in the Titanic Crescent City was several times more than before. On the way to the Titanic Crescent City, Jun Xiaoyaro learned about it from the Heavens Prides. Although the sinful pit was filled with crooks and honest people, there were bandits everywhere. However, the true leaders of the sinful pit were the 5 main sinners. Each of them was infamous and powerful. Their hands were stained with the blood of countless people. Among them, the strongest was the first sinner. No one knew his true strength, but he was definitely above the Supremes. The reason why the first sinner kidnapped the second daughter of the Xia family, Xia Chuqing, was because he wanted the emperor weapon of the Xia family, the treasure basin. It was rumored that the emperor weapon of the Xia family, the treasure basin, was obtained by the eldest daughter of the Xia family, Xia Bingyun, by chance. The treasure basin could contain all the treasures in the world and could even actively sense the location of the treasures. It could be said that the treasure basin played a major role in the business alliance of 10,000 clans for the Xia family to become the most prosperous giant. And Xia Bingyun naturally became the most dazzling pearl of the Xia family. Of course, she had another nickname, which was the Little Rich Lady of the Xia family. As one of the giants of the business alliance of 10,000 clans, the Xia family's wealth and status went without saying. The young master Fuyun that Jun Xiaoyaro killed on the ancient heavenly underworld star was at most a small character in the business alliance of 10,000 clans. Although the business alliance of 10,000 clans was extremely large, it was a loose business organization with many giants. The Xia family was just one of the giants. This was also why the number 1 culprit of the sinful pit dared to kidnap the second daughter of the Xia family. He knew he had only offended the Xia clan, not the entire business alliance of 10,000 tribes. Inside the business alliance of 10,000 races, there were even some giants secretly fighting each other. It was already good enough that the other big shots did not kick them when they were down. It was impossible for them to help the Xia family. After Jun Xiaoyaro and the others entered the Titanic Crescent City, they soon arrived at the encampment of the business alliance of the 10,000 tribes. There were already many Emperor Road Sky Prides and cultivators from all walks of life gathered here. An elder of the Xia family, who was a sage king, said loudly, "Everyone, this group of criminals from the sinful pit is too audacious. How dare they kidnap the second miss of the Xia family and try to obtain the emperor weapon of the Xia family, the treasure bowl. The Xia family invites all righteous people to join us in our crusade against the sinful pit. Every brother who participates will be rewarded with immortal sources, immortal essences, as well as various divine pills and weapon." Hearing the words of the Xia family elder, the eyes of many cultivators were burning with passion. Not all Emperor Road Sky Prides were from immortal forces. Most prodigies were short on resources and had no money. Naturally, these rewards were very attractive. Only Jun Xiaoyaro shook his head and sneered. He just wanted to gather a group of cannon fodder, yet he made it sound so righteous. Naturally, there was no need to pay the dead. Of course, Jun Xiaoyaro was too lazy to expose him. If those people died, so be it. It had nothing to do with him. By the way, the first miss of the Xia family, Xia Bingyun, is temporarily cultivating somewhere and can't come. If she comes later, the Sky Prides who perform well will be personally received by the first miss and even be rewarded, the Xia family elder said with a slight smile. This time, the reaction of the crowd was much more intense than before. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. Especially the young male Sky Prides. Their eyes were surging with excitement. What did it mean to be personally received by the first miss of the Xia family, Xia Bingyun? It meant that if the first miss of the Xia family took a liking to them, they might be able to marry into her family. After all, Xia Bingyun was the apple of the Xia family's eye in the business alliance of the 10,000 tribes. She was known as a rich lady. Who didn't want to say, "Rich lady, I don't want to work hard anymore"? If Xia Bingyun really took a liking to them, they would definitely get all kinds of cultivation resources, natural treasures, divine weapons, and supreme artifact. I must save the second miss of the Xia family with my own hands. That way, I will definitely be received by the first miss of the Xia family. Do you have the ability to do that? If it was so easy to save her, would the Xia family need to make such a big fuss? Many Sky Prides were arguing. All right, everyone. Those who have decided to go together, sign up here. We will set off in 7 days, the Xia family elder said with a wave of his hand. After that, many Sky Prides signed up one after another. Not to mention the rewards, just the possibility of being received by Xia Bingyun was enough for many Sky Prides to take a gamble. If they went all out, they might be able to live off a woman and save 100 years of hard work. Of course, this was what ordinary Sky Prides thought. At Zhun Xiaoyao's level, those who were qualified to let him live off a woman were only forbidden legendary emperors like Luotian Mi Fei. Even the little demon empress of the Demon God Palace was not qualified to let Zhun Xiaoyao live off a woman. Because Zhun Xiaoyao's identity as the monarch of the monarch court was enough to be comparable to the little demon empress. After that, Zhun Xiaoyao and the others signed up. Of course, they did not use their real names. Otherwise, it would have caused a stir. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. 7 days later, giant starships docked at the Titanic Crescent City. Each starship was hundreds of feet long, and its hull was branded with all kinds of defensive arrays. On the deck, there were many offensive arrays that could be activated at the critical moment with the immortal source to explode with shocking lethality. Zhun Xiaoyao glanced at it and nodded slightly. The Xia family was indeed one of the giants of the business alliance of 10,000 clans. Of course, they could not be compared to the Zhun family. Zhun Xiaoyao could also feel the faint aura of a supreme being permeating the main starships. They must be the supreme being experts of the Xia family who might confront the first sinner and the others later. Let's go and board any ship, Zhun Xiaoyao said to Yang Rumeng. His main purpose of going to the sinful pit was not to save the second miss of the Xia family, Xia Chuqing. Instead, he was going to find the stronghold of the 13 bandits. Therefore, he did not care about this rescue operation. As for living off Xia Bingyun, Zhun Xiaoyao would not fall so low with his identity. Besides, if Zhun Xiaoyao really wanted to live off Xia Bingyun, he did not need to do anything. He could just take off his mask and put his handsome face in front of Xia Bingyun. It would be difficult for her not to be tempted. "Sir, we will follow you." The young geniuses also walked up. The female genius who spoke was called Song Fei. After seeing Zhun Xiaoyao kill the Saint Bandits so easily, they felt that he was a very thick thigh that they needed to hug tightly. Zhun Xiaoyao nodded slightly. When the battle started, he could just get rid of them. Zhun Xiaoyao and the others boarded a secondary starship, the kind that looked like cannon fodder. At this moment, a green warship suddenly swept over at an extremely fast speed. "That's the warship of the Supreme Family, the Feng family," a genius exclaimed when he saw the warship. Some elders of the Xia family also looked solemn when they saw this and hurriedly went forward to greet them. For this expedition to the sinful pit, the geniuses that were gathered were nothing more than cannon fodder. The ones who could really help the Xia family were the Feng family. Besides, the daoist of the Feng family should also be here this time. He was one of Xia Bingyun's suitors and would not miss this opportunity to please Xia Bingyun. Chapter 654. As a supreme clan, the Wind Clan had a very deep foundation. The clan members were born with the ability to control the laws of wind. Inside the green warship, there was still a quasi-supreme aura lingering. Sensing the aura, some of the elders of the Xia family were overjoyed. They did not expect that the Wind Clan would send a quasi-supreme. This was a show of respect to the Xia clan. Haha, thank you for coming to help. Now, our chances of winning are even greater. An old voice came from the Xia clan's main warship. It was a supreme great ancestor of the Xia clan. You're welcome, Brother Xia. The sinful pit is a malignant tumor that should have been eradicated long ago, the quasi-supreme of the Wind Clan replied. Although he said that, everyone present knew the truth. The reason why the quasi-supreme of the Wind Clan came was because of the daoist of the Wind Clan. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but look at the green-robed young man holding a folding fan on the deck of the green warship. The green-robed young man had handsome facial features and an elegant demeanor. The aura of a sage permeated the air, and there was a faint wind law around him. His name was Feng Xiaotian, the daoist of the Wind Clan. On the ultimate ancient road, he was considered a famous outlawed sky pride. However, the daoist of the Wind Clan was also famous for his fondness for beautiful women. Previously, at a Commerce Alliance auction, Feng Xiaotian saw Xia Bingyun, the eldest daughter of the Xia clan, and fell in love with her at first sight. However, Xia Bingyun was not a girl from a small clan, and would not be easily charmed by Feng Xiaotian. Feng Xiaotian did not give up and had been pursuing her. Of course, some people thought that Feng Xiaotian did not just like beautiful women. Part of the reason he pursued Xia Bingyun was probably because of Xia Bingyun's rich nature. After all, Xia Bingyun was the first to discover the Xia clan's imperial weapon cornucopia. She had control of the cornucopia. With the cornucopia, Xia Bingyun had discovered countless treasures and accumulated endless wealth. Xia Bingyun had even discovered more than one rare top-grade immortal marrow vein. Even the immortal forces would be jealous of this wealth. At this moment, Feng Xiaotian was in a good mood. He had begged the quasi-supreme of the Wind Clan for a long time before he agreed to come. After Feng Xiaotian personally rescued Xia Chuqing, he would be able to meet with Xia Bingyun. At that time, getting Xia Bingyun's good impression and nurturing their relationship would be a simple matter. Not only was he handsome, but his background also matched that of an outlawed sky pride. No one was more compatible with Xia Bingyun than him. Of course, Feng Xiaotian was not a simple old pervert. He had his own shrewdness and calculations in his heart. Xia Bingyun, this Miss Perfect, the resources in her hands are enough to make even undying powers jealous. If I can get Xia Bingyun, I can have at least half of the resources. At that time, my position in the Feng clan will surpass the other Taoists and I will have the greatest say. In the end, I might even be able to become the Feng clan leader, Feng Xiaotian thought to himself. Any top-notch force would have intense internal competition. Even if it was the Jun family, the 10 sequences would still compete with each other. The Wind Clan also had several Taoists, and Feng Xiaotian was one of them. Although he was not at the bottom, he was not at the top either. Therefore, he needed Xia Bingyun's help. Just as Feng Xiaotian was thinking in his heart, he casually glanced around and suddenly focused on a beautiful figure. It was a graceful woman in a fluttering pink dress, standing on the deck of a starship. A breeze blew, blowing the beautiful woman's clothes, making her look like a fairy from a dream. Although she wore a veil on her face, her pair of clear and beautiful eyes made the world pale in comparison. There was no need to guess that she must be a woman with a flawless face. What made Feng Xiaotian unable to take his eyes off her was the woman's excellent figure. Especially her pair of long legs that were as white and smooth as ivory with a delicate luster, they were extremely eye-catching. What a beauty, she doesn't lose to Xia Bingyun at all. Feng Xiaotian praised in his heart. He could also see that the starship was obviously used as cannon fodder. It would be a pity if such a beauty died in the sinful pit. Feng Xiaotian sighed slightly. He did not think much about it and his body shook slightly. In the next moment, he swept directly to the starship's deck like a gust of wind. Seeing the green-robed young master suddenly appear in front of her, Yang Rumeng's eyes flickered in confusion. Song Fei and the other young Heaven's Pridelings suddenly revealed a look of uneasiness. They did not expect that the Wind Clan Daoist, who was the center of attention, would come to them. Seeing the action of the Wind Clan Daoist, everyone's eyes converged on him. As soon as they saw Yang Rumeng, they understood why the Wind Clan Daoist would do such a thing. After all, he was famous for his love of beautiful women. Feng Xiaotian did not pay attention to Jun Xiaoyaro, who was beside Yang Rumeng. While Jun Xiaoyaro had an extraordinary air about him, the grimace mask on his face, which looked like it was both laughing and crying at the same time, somewhat concealed his aura. Is this girl also going to the sinful pit? Why don't you come to my Wind Clan battleship? Feng Xiaotian smiled, his snow-white teeth gleaming with a luster. He could not say to his face that they were all cannon fodder. Jun Xiaoyaro sighed inwardly. Sure enough, beautiful women were a source of trouble. However, there were all sorts of people here, and if Jun Xiaoyaro were to reveal his identity, he was afraid that before they reached the sinful pit, the 13 great bandits would have run away. At this time, Yang Rumeng revealed a faint smile. The next moment, she intimately took Jun Xiaoyao's arm, and her plump chest was tightly pressed against Jun Xiaoyao. Sorry, I'm going with my husband, Yang Rumeng said apologetically. This made Feng Xiaotian's face twitch, and he felt a little embarrassed. He looked at Jun Xiaoyao, who was wearing a grimace mask, and could not understand why such a beautiful woman would find such an ordinary person. But Feng Xiaotian still took a deep breath and said, then you guys can come together. The Wind Clan battleship is spacious. Yang Rumeng shook her head again. No need, young master, please go back. I'm a little tired. After all, my husband was so naughty last night that I couldn't sleep. Then, she looked at Jun Xiaoyaro coquettishly, revealing the look of a little woman who had been nourished. Seeing this scene, all the male Heaven's Pridelings looked at Jun Xiaoyaro with extreme envy. Feng Xiaotian's face was as ugly as if he had eaten feces. Of course, he was still a Daoist of the Wind Clan and could not be jealous of a fellow of unknown origin in front of everyone. In that case, sorry to disturb you, Feng Xiaotian said, casually glancing at Jun Xiaoyaro. Given his vision and cultivation base, how could he see through Jun Xiaoyaro? Feng Xiaotian returned to the Wind Clan battleship and sighed inwardly. What a beautiful flower field, but it has already been planted. But if he knew that the person he wanted to flirt with was the woman of the Jun family's son of God, what kind of expression would Feng Xiaotian have? On the other side, Jun Xiaoyaro showed a strange look. Do you always use this method to get rid of flies? Yang Rumeng raised her eyebrows. How could she be so casual? If you weren't by my side, I would never use this method to ruin my reputation, Yang Rumeng said telepathically. So you're taking advantage of me? Jun Xiaoyaro said secretly. You. Yang Rumeng was speechless and showed her anger. Her Linglong's delicate body was still tightly pressed against Jun Xiaoyao's side. Who was the one taking advantage of who? Chapter 655. Of course, this was just a small interlude. Feng Xiaotian also did not mock or disrespect him as Jun Xiaoyaro had guessed. After all, he was a Dao disciple of a supreme clan. If he was jealous of a woman in public, and even fought with her, that would be a bit of an idiot. Jun Xiaoyaro shook his head slightly. He had wanted to try the feeling of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. But now it seemed that it was not necessary for the time being. Why are you still so close to me? Jun Xiaoyaro felt the plump softness on his arm and turned his face to the side to transmit his voice. You have to pretend to be decent, Yang Rumeng deliberately said in a sweet voice. Jun Xiaoyaro was speechless. He seriously suspected that Yang Rumeng wanted to take advantage of him and take advantage of him. On the other side, on the Wind Clan warship, several attendants came forward with a dark light in their eyes. Young master, if you like that wife, why don't you let us go down and help? Feng Xiaotian glanced at them and said coldly, am I the kind of person who is greedy for other people's wives? Besides, I will not take over the fertile land that others have plowed. Although Feng Xiaotian was greedy for beauties, he also had principles. He would not take over. That was the bottom line of a man, but it's a pity that such a beauty will eventually die in the sinful pit. Feng Xiaotian sighed. He did not think that those recruited cannon fodder would be able to survive the battle of the sinful pit. After everything was ready, the Shia clan, the Wind clan, and the recruited group of Heaven Prides and cultivators all boarded the Starry Sky warship. Looking around, there were more than 100 warships of various sizes, looking rather imposing. The cultivators who stayed in Titanic Crescent City looked at the fleet in the Starry Sky and sighed. I wonder if the Shia clan will be wiped out or if the sinful pit will be destroyed. The sinful pit was located in the central region of the chaotic astral ocean. Most of the bustling ancient cities were in the outer region. There were already many dangers in the central region. Even sage kings and great sages would fall if they were careless. This was also the reason why the sinful pit had settled down in the central region. It was easy to hide, difficult for the enemy to penetrate, and there were also various natural barriers. When the punitive fleet of the Shia family entered the central region of the chaotic astral ocean, something also happened. Star-devouring ancient beasts that were as large as asteroids also appeared. Fortunately, with the Shia clan's paragon overseeing the situation, the star-devouring ancient beast didn't cause too much damage. Of course, in terms of size, the star-devouring ancient beast could only be considered as an infant. A mature star-swallowing ancient beast could swallow an entire life-ancient star at once. Even great heavenly venerates and supreme mystic venerates might not necessarily have the ability to kill him. Finally, after half a month, the Shia family fleet finally approached the location of the sinful pit. As far as the eye could see, it was a vast asteroid belt. Almost every meteor had all kinds of buildings. What was a little creepy was that these buildings were actually made of white bones. There was no lack of human bones among them. This giant ring-shaped planetary belt is the infamous place of hiding evil within the chaotic astral ocean, the sinful pit. The vast fleet made up of hundreds of starry sky battleships stopped dozens of kilometers away from the sinful pit. The Shia family paragon's aged voice sounded. First culprit, if you hand over the people of the Shia family now, you can still avoid disaster. Not long after, a cold voice that was no less imposing than the Shia family paragon's voice sounded. Where is the Imperial weapon treasure basin that I want? H. I think you are delusional and daydreaming. A bright light erupted from one of the starry sky battleships, and the figure of an elder emerged. The paragon's aura swept out in all directions. Many stars in the surroundings were annihilated without a sound. Boom! In the depths of the sinful pit, there was also a burst of paragon's aura that was accompanied by a biting cold-bloody evil aura. A man in a blood-red robe appeared in the blood sea. In the blood sea, the corpses of all kinds of creatures were rolling and filled with strong resentment. He was the first culprit of the sinful pit. I have to say that the behavior of the Shia family is very stupid. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the first culprit. He didn't want to kill the hostages. He had also heard that the eldest daughter of the Shia family, Shia Bingyun, doted on her younger sister the most. When the time came and he defeated the Shia family fleet, he would let Shia Bingyun come and exchange the treasure basin. At that time, the initiative would be in his hands. Ha, a mere bandit leader dares to do such a bold thing. The Feng family's quasi-paragon also appeared in the void. In the sinful pit, a few more figures appeared. They were the second and third culprit, and their strength was in the quasi-paragon and divine lord realm. Big brother, there is no need to talk nonsense with them. Let's destroy their fleet first, and then wait for the Shia family to deliver the treasure basin. The second culprit's voice was filled with killing intent. Kill. There was no room for negotiation between the two sides, and they immediately launched into a fierce battle. Although there were paragons participating in this level of battle, it was far from the level of an immortal battle. On the ultimate ancient road, there were all kinds of battles that broke out almost every day between various forces and major races. On the starry sky battleships, the formation was activated, and beams of terrifying dharmic power light pierced through the void and burst out. On the other side of the sinful pit, the entire planetary belt formed a terrifying summoning formation. The densely packed white bones converged to form a white bone dragon. There were also many white bone demons and white bone ghost soldiers. In the sinful pit, there were also many fierce-looking criminals and bandits appearing. This scene caused the faces of the assembled Heaven's Pridelings to change. They knew that the expedition to the sinful pit could be very dangerous, but they did not expect it to be so dangerous. On the starry sky battleship, Jun Xiaoyaro looked at the scene in front of him. His face was still indifferent, and he was stroking the Taiyin jade hair in his arms. Where would the stronghold of the 13 bandits be? Yang Rumeng muttered. It should be in the depths of the sinful pit, but given their cautious character, they probably won't participate in the battle. They should be thinking of moving, Jun Xiaoyaro said with a faint smile. Then we have to hurry, Yang Rumeng said. On the other side, on the Wind Clan battleship, Feng Xiaotian had also been paying attention to Yang Rumeng and Jun Xiaoyaro from the corner of his eyes. She's still not panicking, is she really that confident? Feng Xiaotian thought. He thought that, after seeing such a dangerous scene, Yang Rumeng would come over to him. But it turned out that he was thinking too much. Kill. The loud roar of killing spread across the starry sky. The starry sky battleships, like shuttles, plunged into the planetary belt of the sinful pit. Jun Xiaoyaro and the other cultivators on the starry sky battleship were naturally in the front, like cannon fodder. Soon, many Heaven's Pridelings were directly torn to shreds by the White Bone Demon. And the White Bone Dragon had also reached the Saint King level. The high-level experts of the Xia family were all restrained by the first sinner and the others. The White Bone Dragon, which was at the Saint King level, was naturally able to kill unscrupulously in the crowd. It was not until then that the Heaven's Pridelings regretted. It was not so easy to get paid. It was not so easy to live off a woman. Daoist, do we really not need to catch that woman? An attendant beside Feng Xiaotian asked tentatively. He could see that Feng Xiaotian was indeed very fond of that beauty. Forget it, since she insists on dying with her husband, then let her be. Feng Xiaotian shook his head slightly. He had already seen that the White Bone Dragon, which was at the Saint King level, had already rushed toward Yang Rumeng and the others. Sigh, it's sad that a beauty has died. I should also take advantage of the chaos to find where Xia Chuqing is being held. Feng Xiaotian sighed. Just as he turned around and was about to make a move, he seemed to have seen something, and his face suddenly froze. Then his eyes widened, his pupils constricted, and he was so shocked that his divine soul trembled and his scalp went numb. This is impossible. Even with Feng Xiaotian's temperament, he could not help but exclaim in shock. Chapter 656. On the battlefield, the Sage King-level skeletal dragon rampaged through the battlefield. Without a stronger opponent to keep it in check, this skeletal dragon was enough to cause massive casualties. Even some of the famous sage skyprides from the ancient road were like paper in front of the skeletal dragon. They were easily torn to pieces. Roar. The skeletal dragon was only a summoned creature summoned by the array formation. It did not have much intelligence. It instinctively sensed Jun Xiaoyao's vigorous vitality, which was like a torch in the dark night. The skeletal dragon charged at Jun Xiaoyaro and the others with its fangs. Oh no! Behind them, Song Fei and the other young skyprides who followed Jun Xiaoyaro changed their expressions drastically. They had seen Jun Xiaoyaro kill a sage-level bandit with a flick of his finger under the starry sky before. However, although the skeletal dragon was a summoned creature, it was a genuine Sage King-level existence. Looking at the skeletal dragon attacking him, Jun Xiaoyao's face was calm under the mask. He still held the Taiyin jade hair in one hand, while the other hand clenched into a fist and punched out. Immortal Deluo, immortal body, support. The power of 100,000 divine elephants, support. Most importantly, in Jun Xiaoyao's body, the cells trembled, and the power of the entire Sumeru world was also supported on the tip of his fist. This punch did not need any special ability. It was enough to shatter the universe and destroy the sky. Boom! The vast fist light illuminated the starry sky, and the surrounding meteorites shattered. The skeletal dragon, which was comparable to a sage king, shattered inch by inch under Jun Xiaoyao's punch. It was instantly killed. This scene shocked the battlefield, and many people were stunned. Am I seeing things? He killed a Sage King-level skeletal dragon with a single punch. Who is that masked man? No wonder he has such a beautiful woman accompanying him. He really is a big shot who has been hiding his strength all this while. Gasps could be heard from all directions. Some people even mistakenly thought that Jun Xiaoyao might be an expert of the older generation who was pretending to be weak. How could this be? Feng Xiaotian was in a daze, his scalp tingling in disbelief. Without using any great divine ability, he had killed the white bone dragon of the Sage King realm with just his physical strength. In other words, this was something that even outlawed sky prides could not achieve. What was unimaginable for others was nothing out of the ordinary for Jun Xiaoyao. Previously, he was able to kill the half-step great saint-level flame snake general. Now that he had been in seclusion for a year, he had cultivated the fortune immortal chi, the inner universe, and the power of Sumeru world. If he still couldn't kill this Sage King level summoned creature with a single punch, then there would be a problem. Could it be that he's really an expert of the older generation? But that shouldn't be the case. Feng Xiaotian found it hard to believe. If one were to say that the ghost-masked man was from the same younger generation as him, Feng Xiaotian would absolutely not believe it. Perhaps there were a few super taboos that possessed such strength. However, they should also be in the depths of the ancient road. It was impossible for them to stay in a place like the chaotic astral ocean. On the other hand, if the ghost-masked man was an expert of the older generation, Feng Xiaotian also felt that a peerless beauty like Yang Rumeng would not be taken advantage of by an old cow. Looks like we're still too ostentatious. Let's go. Feeling the countless gazes around him, Jun Xiaoyao wrapped his arm around Yang Rumeng's slender waist, took a step forward, and instantly disappeared on the spot without a trace. He had cultivated the space scripture, one of the 9 great heavenly books, and had even condensed the immortal chi of the void. His control of the space Tao had reached the acme of perfection. Everyone only felt that the ghost-masked man had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Where did they go? Forget it, it's more important to find Xia Chuqing first. Although Feng Xiaotian was surprised by Jun Xiaoyao's strength, he still had more important things to do. The entire battlefield was still in chaos. Soldier against soldier, general against general. The Xia clan's supreme being was fighting with the first sinner. The other Xia clan elders and the Feng clan's prospective supreme being were also fighting with the second and third sinners. In the sinful pit, there were screams and sounds of killing everywhere. In the void, wisps of ripples would ripple out from time to time. Jun Xiaoyao's silhouette flickered in and out of the void. The Kuan Peng's extreme speed coupled with the space Tao made Jun Xiaoyao's figure like a ghost. He went deep into the sinful pit at an extremely fast speed. Where is it? Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed. Beside him, Jun Xiaoyao was holding Yang Rumeng's slender waist. Her face was slightly red, and her eyes were watery. Jun Xiaoyao did not notice this beauty's flirtatious behavior. He was concentrating on exploring. At this moment, Jun Xiaoyao's sharp divine sense suddenly captured a trace of aura. His eyes flashed, and he once again disappeared into the void. In the sinful pit, a ghostly figure flickered. Then, it stopped beside an inconspicuous giant meteorite. The figure was dressed in a black robe, and his figure seemed to be hidden in the netherworld. Xia Chuqing should be held here. Although we have to leave the sinful pit, we can't lose this last piece of meat. As for the mess, let the first sinner and the others clean it up, haha. The figure seemed to have activated some secret mechanism. Then, he used a ghostly movement technique and flashed into it. This is a double cross. In the distant void, Jun Xiaoyao's figure appeared in the dark. Because he had killed 4 of the 13 bandits, he was certain. The black-robed man was also one of the 13 bandits. Jun Xiaoyao did not expect the 13 bandits to be so bold that they even dared to snatch the meat near the mouth of the first sinner. And it was obvious that they had been plotting for some time. Perhaps Xia Chuqing's capture had something to do with them. After a while, the black-robed man flashed out, and in his hands was a delicate girl in a light yellow dress. The girl was extremely beautiful, like a pearl emitting a rosy glow. She had almond-shaped eyes and rosy cheeks. Her snow-white forehead had a flicker of wisdom. Her hair was tied into 2 buns, making her look intelligent and charming. However, the girl's mouth was sealed by a talisman. She could not even move her body, let alone scream. The black-robed man dragged the girl to a certain place in the sinful pit. "Aren't you going to make a move?" Yang Rumeng asked. "Do you think he's the only bandit in the sinful pit?" Jun Xiaoyaro said with a hollow laugh. He continued to follow the black-robed man. Deep inside the sinful pit, in a dilapidated building on a planet, two figures were collecting various treasures. Among them were hearts, blood, eyeballs, arms, and other things, all of which were branded with god runes. At a glance, they were all unique physiques, such as the Shentian divine eyes, Chilean arms, ancient god hearts, etc. Each of the organs represented the death of a genius with a unique physique. It was obvious how many geniuses of the Nine Heavens immortal realm the 13 bandits had killed. "Kai Lian, Shuesho, I'm here." The black-robed man brought the girl, Xia Chuqing, to the place. "Netherworld, you're finally here. Let's pack up and leave." "We can't stay in the sinful pit," the Shuesho pirate said. "I don't know why, but I keep feeling uneasy." Kai Liandao rubbed the corners of his eyes. From the voice, it was surprisingly a gentle and charming woman. "You're overthinking it," the underworld pirate said indifferently. "Maybe it's because the Shadow Demon Bandit and the others were killed by the Son of God of the Jun clan. But it's fine, we'll get our revenge," the Chilean robber said with a hint of hatred. Even though the 13 bandits were cruel to outsiders, they had always been united. 4 of the bandits had died at the hands of Jun Xiaoyao, thus the rest of the bandits hated Jun Xiaoyao to the core. "I did hear that Tarantula and the others are planning to kill the goddess of the Jiang clan, Jiang Shengyi, who has a carnate spirit embryo deep inside the ancient path. After killing Jun Xiaoyao, Boss will be able to devour the sacred body of the ancients and the carnate spirit embryo at the same time. By then, which genius on the ultimate ancient road would be able to defeat Boss?" the underworld pirate said with a hollow laugh. However, as soon as he finished the sentence, it was as if the world had frozen. In the blink of an eye, the temperature dropped to the freezing point, as if it was frozen. It was a cold murderous intent that froze the riff. "Did you just say that you're planning to kill Jiang Shengyi?" A cold voice that sounded like the voice of the god of death came out. The underworld pirate, the Chilean robber, and the Shuesho pirate shuddered. They immediately focused their attention on the man in a demon mask who was floating in the rift not far away. "That mask is..." The eyes of the 3 bandits trembled in astonishment. The moment they saw the devil mask, they even had the illusion that their boss had come. Chapter 657. A cold, murderous aura locked down the world. The blood bandit, the underworld bandit, and the Chilean robber felt as if they were in an eternal ice abyss. They could only feel a bone-piercing chill. "Who are you? Why do you have our boss's mask?" The only female of the 3, the Chilean robber, shouted coldly. They were a little confused and couldn't figure out what was going on. A man and a woman suddenly appeared. The woman's face was covered with a veil. On the other hand, the man was wearing a mask that they were all too familiar with. This made them extremely confused. The second daughter of the Xia family, Xia Chuqing, who had been bound and gagged, began to struggle violently when she saw the people appear. Her bright eyes were filled with a desire to live and a look of pleasant surprise. Obviously, she thought that the man and woman in front of her were sent by the Xia family to save her. "You said that you want to kill Jiang Shengyi?" Jun Xiaoyaro said in an incomparably cold voice. That biting cold murderous aura caused the world to change color. To the side, Yang Rumeng sighed softly when she saw Jun Xiaoyao's attitude. After spending so much time with Jun Xiaoyaro, she knew that Jun Xiaoyaro had always been a calm person. Nothing could affect Jun Xiaoyao's emotions. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression wouldn't change. However, after hearing that Jiang Shengyi might be killed, Jun Xiaoyao emitted such a murderous aura. This was enough to prove that Jiang Shengyi had a special place in Jun Xiaoyao's heart. She was different from the other women. Jiang Shengyi is so lucky. Yang Rumeng's eyes were filled with envy. In this world, how many women were qualified to make Jun Xiaoyao care about them? So what if I am? No, could you be? The Chilean robber snorted coldly. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, his body trembled and his eyes trembled. "Are you Jun Xiaoyao?" The Chilean robber couldn't help but exclaim. Zhang Xiaoyao's gaze was as cold as frost. He didn't say anything and directly sent out a palm strike. "Let's go," the Chilean robber shouted. The Nether Pirate and Blood Pirate's expressions changed drastically as they hastily retreated. It was not that they were too cowardly. Instead, after learning that Zhang Xiaoyao had killed the Flame Snake General, who was half a step away from being a great saint, they knew that they were no match for Zhang Xiaoyao. Unless the top few among the 13 bandits, such as the Tarantula Bandits, the Army Destroyer Bandits, and the 7 Kill Bandits, joined forces, they would have a chance to deal with Zhang Xiaoyao. "Do you think you can leave?" Zhang Xiaoyao sneered. Sealing runes suddenly appeared in the surrounding void, completely locking down the area. No matter how the three of them attacked, they couldn't break the seal. It turned out that before Zhang Xiaoyao showed up, he had already set up the third immortal forbidding seal in secret. The 3 bandits wore unpleasant looks. All this time, they had been playing the role of the hunter, and the top heaven's favorites were their prey. And now, they finally experienced the feeling of being hunted. Zhang Xiaoyao's palm intertwined with runes as he slammed forward. It contained the force of an entire Sumeru realm. The Chilean robber and his crew felt like the whole world was crushing down on them. How could there be such a genius among the younger generation of the 9 Heavens immortal realm? The 3 bandits had already anticipated that Zhang Xiaoyao's powers would be extremely terrifying, but they were unable to do anything about it. However, they did not expect him to be this strong. The 3 of them felt a sense of despair and helplessness with just a single move. Even the young emperors of the foreign realm and the descendants of the immortal monarch tribe are no match against him. The Chilean robber was in despair. They did not beg for mercy, as they knew Zhang Xiaoyao would never forgive them. Puff! The bodies of the underworld robber and the blood fiend robber exploded instantly. Their bones cracked while their flesh and blood turned into minced meat. Their primordial spirits were destroyed. The Chilean robber was the only one left. He was trembling with a blank face. What are you doing? Could it be?" The Chilean robber misunderstood. He thought Zhang Xiaoyao was going to do something inappropriate to him. After all, he was the only woman among the 3 of them, yet Zhang Xiaoyao had spared his life. "Tell me everything you know, and I'll give you a quick death," Zhang Xiaoyao said calmly. He had to kill them, but he had to force them to give him the information first. "Impossible," the Chilean robber clenched his teeth. The fact that they were sent by the foreign realm as scouts indicated that they were not weak either. They would not give in so easily. Unfortunately, the person she was facing was Zhang Xiaoyao. "You're asking for it," Zhang Xiaoyao shook his head. He immediately summoned the Chaos Godly Grindstone. The pain of crushing one's primordial spirit was thousands of times more painful than death by 1,000 cuts. Unless it was someone with an extremely strong will, it was impossible to endure. This was also the reason why Zhang Xiaoyao only spared the Chilean robber. A woman's psychological barrier was thinner and easier to break through. Soon, Zhang Xiaoyao broke through the Chilean robber's barrier and obtained some important information. After all, the Chilean robber was ranked higher than the previous 4 among the 13 great robbers. Therefore, she had to know a little more information. So that's how it is. The Parameter organization has infiltrated the immortal realm for a long time, and the power behind them is the foreign realm's immortal emperor clan, the Parameter clan, Zhang Xiaoyao murmured. In the foreign realm, there were immortal emperor clans that had been passed down since ancient times, such as the Gulan clan, the Parameter clan, the Zuan clan, and so on. These immortal emperor clans had an ancient history, and their inheritances were extremely deep. They were endlessly mysterious. Zhang Xiaoyao did not expect that the foreign realm, which had been silent for a long time, had already begun planning in secret. In addition, the 3 great robbers were also preparing to present these special physiques and bloodlines to the immortal slaying robber. What surprised Zhang Xiaoyao was that he learned from the Chilean robber. The immortal slaying robber, who was ranked first among the 13 great robbers and could even kill outlawed skyprides, was only a mortal. However, the immortal slaying robber defied the heavens and had the ability to devour other bloodlines and physiques. The more he devoured and refined, the stronger he became. This physique is somewhat similar to Yang Qingying's. However, other than her special physique, Yang Qingying mainly relies on the god-devouring demonic technique, Jun Xiaoyaro thought. If he allowed the immortal slaying robber to continue growing, he might really be a threat to him. Following that, Jun Xiaoyaro also found out that Tarantula and the others were plotting to attack Jiang Xingyi in the depths of the ancient road. Now, there were 6 more great robbers in the depths of the ancient road. Other than the most mysterious and powerful immortal slaying robber. There were also Tarantula, the army destroyer robber, the 7 slaughter robber, the moon executioner robber, and the galactic destroyer robber. If one were to classify the 13 great robbers into a rough hierarchy, the immortal slaying robber was undoubtedly at the top. Tarantula, the army destroyer robber, and the 7 slaughter robber were at the second level. The moon executioner robber, the galactic destroyer robber, and the Chilean robber before him were at the third level. The shadow demon robber, the sky witch robber, and the others were at the fourth level. The strength of Tarantula and the others was obviously not on the same level as the Chilean robber and the others. With their strength, they might be a threat to Jiang Xingyi. However, what made Jun Xiaoyaro feel a little relieved was that, at the moment, Tarantula and the others were only at the preliminary stage of their plan. It would be a long time before they could actually execute it. After all, Jiang Xingyi was not a pushover. She was now a famous goddess-like figure on the ancient final road and was extremely powerful. If they wanted to guarantee success, they still needed to plan and weigh the pros and cons. 13 great robbers, your path is too narrow. With a thought, Jun Xiaoyaro crushed the Chilean robber's primordial spirit with the primordial chaos divine grindstone. Dragons had reverse scales, and those who touched them would be in rage. Jiang Xingyi was one of Jun Xiaoyao's reverse scales. Chapter 658. After killing Kai Liandao and the other 2, Jun Xiaoyaro had killed 7 out of the 13 bandits, including the ones he killed earlier. But that wasn't enough. Jun Xiaoyaro wanted the 13 of them to go to hell together and cross the Yellow Springs peacefully. As expected of a bandit. There are a lot of treasures. Jun Xiaoyaro casually glanced around the cave and took all the treasures and resources without hesitation. Even if he didn't like these resources, he could use them to reward others. After all, Jun Xiaoyaro wasn't alone now. He had the Emperor dynasty behind him. He had to consider the Emperor dynasty at all times. He couldn't take all the resources of the Emperor dynasty from the Jun family. As Jun Xiaoyao's private force, the Emperor dynasty couldn't rely too much on the Jun family's funding. Jun Xiaoyao even had a wild ambition in his heart. In the future, he wanted to build the Emperor dynasty into something similar to the ancient heavenly court in the legends. He wanted to build a heavenly palace, control the heavenly Tao, punish life and death, and shape the cycle of reincarnation. In other words, Jun Xiaoyaro wanted the Emperor dynasty to be on par with or even surpass the supreme Xian Ting. Of course, it was a long process, and Jun Xiaoyaro only had a rough idea of what to do. He needed to win step by step and absorb all the forces to join the Emperor dynasty. Otherwise, Jun Xiaoyaro wouldn't need to rope in the Naga race and other races with potential. However, this was all in the future. Right now, Jun Xiaoyaro had collected all the resources. As for the bloodlines and physiques, Jun Xiaoyaro also put them away. For Jun Xiaoyaro, who had the sacred body of the ancients and the bones of supremacy, these bloodlines and physiques weren't enough for him. But he could leave them for Yang Qingying to devour. Or he could give them to the people around him. It seems that to deal with the immortal execution robber and the others, we have to go deeper into the ancient road. Let's go first. Jun Xiaoyaro was still a little disappointed that he didn't kill all the 13 bandits this time. The stronghold of the sinful pit was only a foothold for the 13 bandits. The immortal extermination robber and tarantula were in the depths of the ancient road. However, it didn't matter. Jun Xiaoyaro would eventually reach the end of the ancient road. There was no need for him to look for them, as the immortal extermination bandit and the others would take the initiative to look for him. After all, the immortal bandit was one of the 7 defiant sovereigns. Just as Jun Xiaoyaro and Yang Ruming were about to leave, the whining sound came again. Jun Xiaoyaro turned his head to look. The second young mistress of the Xia family, Xia Chuqing, whose entire body was wrapped in chains and whose mouth was sealed with talismans, was whimpering non-stop. There was even confusion in her eyes. Could it be that this pair of man and woman were not sent by the Xia family to rescue her? Why did he turn a blind eye to her after killing the 3 bandits? Should we take her back? Yang Rumeng asked. Zhang Xiaoyaro pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. Cornucopia, the rich young mistress of the Xia family, Xia Bingyun, is a fertile land, Zhang Xiaoyaro thought to himself. The fact that the Xia family could become one of the giants of the business alliance of the 10,000 clans was enough to prove their wealth and resources. Even if the Xia family was not included. Just the wealth and resources that Xia Bingyun, who owned the imperial weapon cornucopia, controlled were enough to make the immortal forces jealous. Moreover, Zhang Xiaoyaro had heard before that Xia Bingyun was also a strong woman. Most of the business transactions of the Xia family were controlled by her. She had almost been recognized as the next female patriarch of the Xia family. In other words, if he got Xia Bingyun, he would be able to obtain the resources and financial resources of a wealthy family. No wonder the Daoist of the Wind Clan was so concerned. I'm afraid he has an ulterior motive and wants Xia Bingyun's resources to help him. Zhang Xiaoyao immediately understood. How could such a fertile land fall into the hands of others? It was best to have it in his own hands. It just so happened that the Emperor Monarch's family had a lot of business and was lacking resources. Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaoyaro turned around and walked in front of Xia Chuqing. He broke the chains on her body and tore the talisman in her mouth. Xia Chuqing gasped for breath and patted her small chest with her jade-like hands. You scared me to death. I thought you didn't care about me anymore. Xia Chuqing heaved a sigh of relief. She was pretty, with bright eyes and white teeth. Her skin was as delicate as mutton-fat jade, and her big eyes were lively. Her black hair was tied into 2 buns, and she was as beautiful as a field elf. How could I not care about you? Zhang Xiaoyaro smiled. Hearing this gentle voice, Xia Chuqing's eyes lit up. Although the young man in front of her was wearing a strange and clumsy ghost face mask. Judging from his voice, he should be a very good-looking young man. In addition, Zhang Xiaoyaro had just killed 3 notorious bandits. That kind of powerful strength made Xia Chuqing's eyes light up and she felt a sense of security. Her first impression of Zhang Xiaoyaro was even better. Moreover, if she knew the true identity of Zhang Xiaoyaro, she would most likely faint from excitement. Well, we shouldn't stay here for long, let's go. Zhang Xiaoyao's voice was gentle, making people instinctively have a warm and good impression of him. Ian, thank you very much. I will definitely ask my elder sister to reward you heavily in the future. Xia Chuqing smiled and nodded. Yang Rumeng, who was beside him, saw the sudden change in Zhang Xiaoyao's attitude. She understood that Zhang Xiaoyaro was probably up to something again. Ah, ignorant little girl. Yang Rumeng sighed inwardly. It was obvious that Zhang Xiaoyaro wanted to use Xia Chuqing as a starting point for the Xia family. But thinking that she seemed to be infatuated with Zhang Xiaoyaro, she didn't seem to have the right to criticize others. Subsequently, Zhang Xiaoyaro took Yang Rumeng and Xia Chuqing to leave the sinful pit. Sorry to offend you. Zhang Xiaoyaro hugged Yang Rumeng with one hand and Xia Chuqing with the other, displaying the extreme speed of the Kuanping and activating the void immortal qi. His figure turned into a faint shadow, hiding in the void, and flashing through the sinful pit. Xia Chuqing exclaimed, her little face blushing. It was the first time that she had been hugged by a strange man since she was a child. Strangely, Xia Chuqing didn't feel the slightest bit of disgust or offended. What a fragrant smell! Xia Chuqing smelled the fresh and light body fragrance of Zhang Xiaoyaro. She looked at the face wearing the ghost mask, and couldn't help murmuring in her heart. I wonder what kind of face is under this mask. On the way out of the sinful pit, there were also some villains and bandits with keen divine sense who noticed Zhang Xiaoyaro and the others. But in an instant, they were all killed by Zhang Xiaoyaro, and even the news could not be spread out. When Xia Chuqing saw Zhang Xiaoyaro casually killing all the enemies, her beautiful eyes glowed even more brightly. Such a mysterious and powerful man indeed attracted the attention of girls. Just as they were about to leave the sinful pit through another route, a few figures suddenly appeared in front of them. It was Feng Xiaotian and the others who were deep in the sinful pit. The squire at Saint Great Perfection by Feng Xiaotian's side noticed Jun Xiaoyaro and the others as well. Daozi, it's the miss of the Xia family. The servant pointed to Jun Xiaoyaro and the others. It really is her, but how did he save her? Feng Xiaotian's eyes lit up when he saw Xia Chuqing. But at the same time, he also saw Jun Xiaoyaro hugging Xia Chuqing. This made Feng Xiaotian's face suddenly darken. If the person who saved Xia Chuqing was not him, how could Xia Bingyun treat him differently? Chapter 659. In Feng Xiaotian's imagination, he should have gone deep into the enemy's camp and taken a huge risk to rescue Xia Chuqing. Then, Xia Chuqing would be grateful to him, and then he would be received by Xia Bingyun and treated differently. Finally, he would slowly cultivate feelings with Xia Bingyun and win her over. This was an extremely perfect plan. But now, Xia Chuqing was rescued by someone else. And that person happened to be someone he was a little unhappy with. At this moment, seeing Jun Xiaoyaro hugging two women, Feng Xiaotian was even more unhappy. Forget about Yang Yu Meng. Although she looked like a goddess, she was already someone's wife after all. Feng Xiaotian also interrupted this thought. However, Xia Chuqing was beautiful, refined, and charming. She was not much inferior to her older sister, Xia Bingyun. Under the most perfect circumstances, Feng Xiaotian even felt that he could take both sisters into his pocket. After all, if he personally rescued Xia Chuqing would definitely be grateful to him and have a good impression of him. But now, his good plan was completely disrupted by the ghost-masked man in front of him. Looking at Xia Chuqing snuggling in Jun Xiaoyao's arms, Feng Xiaotian always had a feeling that the thing he had set his eyes on was snatched away by someone else in advance. It was as if he saw a fertile field and wanted to sow it himself. But in the end, he found that there was already someone else's seed. Who are they? They don't look like the bad guys of the sinful pit. Xia Chuqing, who was leaning in Jun Xiaoyao's arms, said. They are the people of the Feng clan who came with the Xia family. Jun Xiaoyaro shook his head, ready to ignore her. Oh. Xia Chuqing responded, glancing indifferently at Feng Xiaotian, and then withdrew her gaze. This made the veins on Feng Xiaotian's forehead throbbing. Was she completely ignoring him? After all, he had taken the risk to come in and save her. Miss Chuqing, I am Feng Xiaotian of the Feng clan. I have come to save you. Quickly leave with me. Feng Xiaotian said in a gentle tone with a smile on his face. No need, I am very safe now. Xia Chuqing had no intention of moving at all. She only felt a sense of security in Jun Xiaoyao's arms. The corner of Feng Xiaotian's eyes twitched slightly. His plan could be considered to have failed. As for using force, after seeing Jun Xiaoyaro kill the Saint King level white bone dragon with a single punch, they were shocked. Unless Feng Xiaotian had lost his mind, there was no way he would have messed with Jun Xiaoyaro. If that's the case, then I'll follow you. It's safer for everyone to be together. Feng Xiaotian forced a smile. There's no need for that. You'll only slow me down, Jun Xiaoyaro refused. He had no interest in hanging out with these burdens. Brother, I'm still a Daoist of the Wind Clan. Feng Xiaotian's smile faded. What Daoist of the Wind Clan? Get out of the way, Jun Xiaoyaro said calmly. Not to mention the Feng clan Daoist, even the Feng clan leader would not dare to put on airs in front of him. Just when Feng Xiaotian couldn't hold it in anymore. Suddenly, a thunderous roar of rage exploded from the distant sky. I've finally found you, and you still want to run? Hearing this thunderous voice, the faces of Feng Xiaotian and the others changed. When they looked over, they were shocked to see, in the distant sky, a ferocious-looking man dressed in black heavy armor and holding a blood-stained saber was walking over. The aura of the great saint realm shook the void. Oh no, it's the fifth chief sinner of the sinful pit. Feng Xiaotian couldn't help but exclaim. Of the 5 chief sinners of the sinful pit, the strongest was naturally the first chief sinner, who had the cultivation of a supreme being. Although the 5th chief sinner was the weakest, he also had the cultivation of the great saint realm. However, at this moment, the black armor of the 5th chief sinner was slightly cracked, and his aura was a little chaotic. Obviously, He had just fought his way out of the main battlefield and had suffered serious injuries. But even if he was injured, he was still a great saint, which was not at the same level as the saints. Someone reported that this little fat sheep had escaped, but it seems that your efforts are in vain. The fifth chief sinner grinned, and blood flowed down. Although he had suffered serious injuries, it was still easy for him to deal with these saints and saint kings. A great saint realm expert, what should we do? Xia Chuqing's face was full of panic. They didn't have anyone who could fight against a great saint. Zhun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed under the ghostly mask, but he didn't say anything. He hugged Yang Ruming and Xia Chuqing. The Taiyin jade hair poked its little head out of Zhun Xiaoyao's lapel, and then shrank back. Zhun Xiaoyao stepped on the Kuan Peng and flew into the distance at top speed. It was not that Zhun Xiaoyao was afraid, but they were in the sinful pit, and it would be bad if they were surrounded for too long. Zhun Xiaoyao didn't care if he was alone, but with Xia Chuqing, who was a burden, he had to play it safe. Let's go. Feng Xiaotian and the others hurriedly retreated. Where do you think you're going? The fifth chief sinner attacked, waving the saber in his hand. The 10,000-foot-long blood-colored saber slashed down in a mighty manner. The space was sliced into two halves. Path chosen, run. I'll cover the rear. The Saint King's servant shouted sternly. As soon as he said that, there was a spurt. Blood splattered everywhere. The Saint King's servant did not even have the strength to resist and was directly cut in half by the fifth chief sinner's saber. Feng Xiaotian was scared out of his wits when he saw this scene. Tears and snot flowed down his face as he ran away. Xia Chuqing happened to see this scene. Feng Xiaotian, who was in a sorry state, was in stark contrast to Zhun Xiaoyao, who was calm and composed at this moment. Trying to run? Die. The fifth chief sinner slashed his saber at Zhun Xiaoyao again. The dazzling blood-colored saber seemed to have cut open the universe, and all kinds of runes and laws burst out as if it had cut the sky. Obviously, the fifth chief sinner did not have the patience. He wanted to kill everyone with one slash and then take Xia Chuqing back. It's over. Am I going to die here? Feng Xiaotian's legs turned to jelly, and he couldn't run even if he wanted to. He was extremely desperate. Zhun Xiaoyao let go of Yang Ruming and Xia Chuqing. Young master. Xia Chuqing's almond-shaped eyes trembled. She was afraid that Zhun Xiaoyao would abandon her and run away alone. Don't worry, this won't happen. Zhun Xiaoyao smiled faintly and activated all the dharmic powers in his body. The immortal Deluo immortal body, the power of 100,000 divine elephants, and the power of a Sumeru realm supported him. Then, he took out the myriad chi cauldron. The thick myriad chi cauldron, which could crush mountains and rivers for thousands of miles, was now rolling in the cauldron, full of unparalleled power. Zhun Xiaoyao knew that he only had one chance. The fifth chief sinner obviously looked down on them and wanted to kill them with one slash. In that case, Zhun Xiaoyao would give him a big surprise. Kill. Zhun Xiaoyao let out a murderous roar as he pushed the myriad chi cauldron, as if he was pushing an ancient and vast universe. Boom. A dazzling brilliance and thunderous collision resounded throughout the sinful pit. Even the battlefield in the distance was alarmed, and countless gazes were cast over. That's the fifth chief sinner. He found the second young mistress of the Xia family. Heavens, that grim-masked man has the courage to fight the fifth chief sinner, who is a great saint expert. Countless people around were shocked. Even some of the elders of the Xia family, and even the supreme being of the Xia family, were surprised. Are all the young people nowadays so brave? A saint dares to fight a great saint. Just as everyone was shocked, in the dazzling light of the collision, there was a shrill scream. A figure was sent flying hundreds of miles away like a dog. The black heavy armor on his body was completely shattered, and half of his body was crushed into minced meat. It was the fifth chief sinner. At this moment, everyone fell silent. Chapter 660. The entire chaotic battlefield fell into a momentary pause because of the scene in front of them. A look of astonishment appeared on everyone's faces. They were all stunned. Were all the saints nowadays so powerful? Although the fifth sinner was injured, he was still a genuine great saint expert. Now, he had been sent flying by a young saint. Half of his body had been smashed, and he was sent flying backward in an extremely sorry state. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would have thought that it was a fantasy. Some of the Shia family elders, Shia family supremes, and even the first sinner from the sinful pit were all stunned. No matter how injured the fifth sinner was, he should not have been beaten up by a saint, right? What happened next made everyone feel even more suffocated. The ghost-masked man was extremely decisive and ruthless. He did not give the fifth sinner any chance at all. He used his extreme speed and instantly swept in front of the fifth sinner, who had been sent flying backward, and smashed down with his fist. Poof! The fifth sinner's entire head exploded. A primordial spirit suddenly escaped from it and charged toward the ghost-masked man with a vast soul-killing power. The primordial spirit power of a great saint was extremely powerful and surged forward like a tidal wave. Then, golden light shone in the void, and a golden Buddha made up entirely of primordial spirit power appeared and pressed down fiercely. Boom! The primordial spirit of the fifth sinner was crushed with a loud bang. A great saint expert had fallen. Dead silence. It was clearly a chaotic battlefield, but at this moment, the atmosphere seemed to have frozen. Everyone was stunned and tongue-tied. As for the sinful pit, the first sinner and the others looked as if they had seen a ghost, and their eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. No one would have thought that the fifth sinner of the great saint realm would fall at the hands of a saint. This had simply refreshed everyone's worldview. Was it because the great saint realm was weak? No. It was because the ghost-masked man was too strong. He was so strong that he was demonic. He was not human at all. Who is that saint? How could he be so powerful? Even the supreme being of the Shia family was shocked to the core. He had never thought that such a powerful person would be hidden among the cannon fodder recruited by the Shia family. The Feng's quasi-supremes were also stunned. He subconsciously glanced at his daoist. He saw that Feng Xiaotian's legs were trembling, and his face was deathly pale. He was in an extremely sorry state. Seeing that his daoist was in such a sorry state, the Feng's quasi-supreme's expressions were unnatural. In comparison, Feng Xiaotian was a disgrace to the Fengs. On the other side, Jun Xiaoyaro was calm and collected as he put away the cauldron of myriad qi. Jun Xiaoyaro didn't feel much about killing a supreme saint. This was because he knew that luck played an important role in the success of this mission. A great saint expert of the great saint realm. Of the great saint, great Feng of the great saint realm of the sinner of the great saint realm, of the great of the sinful. Of the great great realm. Of the great saint great of the great of the greater of the great of his of the saint realm. Of the great saint realm of the great saint. There was also the myriad qi cauldron. It was also a powerful killer move that played an important role. Jun Xiaoyaro was able to kill a great saint expert so smoothly because of all these factors. Otherwise, if he were to face a great saint at his peak and at full strength, Jun Xiaoyaro would not be defeated, but he would not be able to kill a great saint so easily. Beside him, Xia Chuqing was stunned. Her little face glowed. Her eyes were filled with surprise and admiration. Who would have thought that the mysterious brother who saved her would have such terrifying strength? He could even kill a great saint. More importantly, Jun Xiaoyaro did not look sorry at all from the beginning to the end. He was calm and composed, and his robe was as white as snow. He killed a great saint with a wave of his hand. Many girls would be charmed by such a demeanor. Xia Chuqing's heart was pounding. Yang Rumeng was also slightly stunned. She had seen Jun Xiaoyaro kill the half-step great saint-level flame snake general. However, there was still a huge gap between a half-step great saint and a true great saint. It seems that after more than a year of closed-door cultivation, his realm did not seem to have improved, but his strength has increased by a lot. Yang Rumeng also sighed. He was truly a monster that made his peers despair. This was too much of a blow to their self-confidence. Right now, there was one person who had received 10,000 points of critical damage. That person was Feng Xiaotian. How could it be? How could he? Feng Xiaotian was stunned. He was dumbfounded and could not believe it. Killing a great saint was one thing. After all, there were some outlawed sky prides who could challenge someone one level above them. However, The problem was that the masked man was 2 whole realms above him. This was extremely abnormal. Feng Xiaotian was so shocked that his Daoist heart began to waver. With such a person around, the Feng clan's Daoist was nothing. Let's go. Zhun Xiaoyaro hugged Yang Ruming and Xia Chuqing's slender waists again. They were still in the middle of the battlefield, and there was no time to delay. Damn it! On the main battlefield, the first sinner was furious. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Not only was the 5th sinner dead, but the hostages were also taken away. Haha, let's call it a day. The Xia clan will remember this. In the future, we'll gather our forces and completely destroy the sinful pit. The Xia clan's honorable one laughed to the sky. He was in a good mood. He thought that he would have to go through a life-and-death battle to save Xia Chuqing. He did not expect such a pleasant surprise. Under the protection of the Xia clan's honorable one and the others, Zhun Xiaoyaro and the others safely left the sinful pit. Although the first sinner was furious, there was nothing he could do. This time, he did not catch the fox. Instead, he got himself into trouble. As for capturing Xia Chuqing, the Xia clan would not give the first sinner another chance. Next, the first sinner would have to think about how to withstand the Xia clan's revenge. In the starry sky, fleets were traveling through the starry sky. Compared to the hundreds of starships when they left, only half of the fleets returned. In other words, half of the cultivators died in the battle with the sinful pit. And 80% of the cultivators who died were cannon fodder recruited by the Xia clan. In one of the Xia clan's main ships, Zhun Xiaoyaro was being courteously received by the elders of the Xia clan. Even the honorable one of the Xia clan had instructed the elders of the Xia clan to give Zhun Xiaoyaro the best treatment as a VIP. If not for young master's help, we would not have been able to save the second miss so smoothly. Yes, young master is really a divine man. His strength makes us of the older generation blush with shame. An elder of the Xia clan's Saint King sighed with a red face. The new generation surpasses the old. The younger generation of saints was now more powerful than the older generation of Saint Kings. This made them blush with shame. Elders, you don't have to be like this, Zhun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. His temperament was calm, and he was neither arrogant nor rash. His bearing and strength caused the eyes of the elders of the Xia family to light up. Wouldn't it be great if such a talent could stay in the Xia clan and become a member of the Xia clan? Chapter 661. The elders of the Xia family began to think. It would be a pity to miss out on such a talent. As for the fact that the ghost-masked man already had a wife, the Xia family did not care. Such a talent was worthy of them trying their best to rope him in. Because Zhun Xiaoyaro was wearing a ghost mask, the elders of the Xia family did not rashly probe with their divine sense, as that would be too offensive. But even if they wanted to probe, as long as Zhun Xiaoyaro did not want to leak his aura, no one would be able to detect his actual situation. Chuqing, this young master went into the sinful pit to save you, you have to thank him properly, an elder of the Xia family said with a smile. He was creating an opportunity for Xia Chuqing. Thank you for saving me, young master. At this moment, Xia Chuqing's little face was shy, red like an apple, cute and attractive. Powerful strength, calm temperament, mysterious identity. All kinds of fantasies in a girl's heart were vividly reflected on Zhun Xiaoyaro. It was very difficult for a girl to dislike such a man. You don't have to do that, it's just a small matter. If there is injustice in the world, I am willing to redress it, Zhun Xiaoyaro waved his hand and said with a faint smile. If there is injustice in the world, I am willing to redress it. Xia Chuqing muttered, chewing on these words. What kind of chivalrous heart did he have to be able to say such moving words? Young master is really a kind person, a hero, Chuqing is full of admiration. Xia Chuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with extraordinary splendor. The elders of the Xia family were also smiling. This person's character, strength, and talent were all indisputable. The only thing they were not sure about was his identity and background. But with such strength, even if he had no background, the Xia family would gladly accept him as a son-in-law. When Yang Ayu Meng saw this situation, she was also somewhat speechless. Anyone in the world could be a kind person, except for Zhun Xiaoyaro, who was completely not a kind person. If he did good deeds, then there was no doubt. He must be scheming and doing things that were beneficial to him. Is the Xia family trying to rope me in? Zhang Xiaoyao's eyes flashed with a strange light. He still had some ideas about the Xia family. Who would have thought that the Xia family would have ideas about him first? Compared to the liveliness on Zhang Xiaoyao's side, Feng Xiaotian's side was incomparably desolate. When he had first arrived, he had also received the warm welcome and respect of the elders of the Xia family. And now, the Xia family completely disregarded him. The Feng clan's quasi-sovereign sighed inwardly upon seeing this. Not to mention the others, even he felt extremely embarrassed when he saw Feng Xiaotian's performance. This was simply a disgrace to the Wind clan. By the way, young master, the eldest daughter of the Xia clan will be going to gigantic Crescent City soon. The Xia clan owes you a debt of gratitude, young master. We must treat you well, the elder of the Xia clan said. In that case, it would be impolite to decline. Zhang Xiaoyao smiled. He was waiting for Xia Bingyun. If he could subdue Xia Bingyun, then he could subdue the entire Xia family. He would not let go of such a wealthy family. The fleet began to return to Titanic Crescent City. Everyone was very happy. As for the surviving cultivators who were recruited, they would also be rewarded handsomely. Perhaps the only one who was in a bad mood was Feng Xiaotian. Not only did Xia Chuqing have an extremely bad impression of him, even the Sage King's attendant by his side had perished. It could be said that he had suffered a double loss and did not gain the slightest benefit. It's all because of that masked man. Feng Xiaotian was very indignant and resentful in his heart. That ghost masked man had stolen all of his limelight. His plan had been completely disrupted. Now, it was even more impossible for Xia Bingyun to treat him differently. Of course, as the Daoist of the Feng clan, Feng Xiaotian was no fool. Before he knew the true identity of the masked man, he would not casually provoke him. The fleet sailed towards gigantic Crescent City. Along the way, Xia Chuqing had also been clinging to Zhang Xiaoyao's side, asking all sorts of questions, her big eyes constantly glancing at the gap in Zhang Xiaoyao's mask. She was too curious and wanted to know the appearance and identity of the person who had saved her. Zhang Xiaoyao did not care. His identity would be revealed sooner or later. However, when Xia Bingyun came, it would be more of a deterrent and help his plan to subdue the Xia family. Soon, after about half a month, Zhang Xiaoyao and the others finally returned to gigantic Crescent City. The Xia family's elder invited Zhang Xiaoyao to the most luxurious restaurant in gigantic Crescent City to temporarily stay there and wait for Xia Bingyun's arrival. News of Zhang Xiaoyao began to spread throughout gigantic Crescent City. He had entered the sinful pit and saved Xia Chuqing. He had also decisively killed the fifth sinner of the Great Saint Realm in the Saint Realm. These various deeds had caused an uproar in gigantic Crescent City. Many people were curious and surprised. Which great god had graced them with his presence? It was not that no one had suspected that it could be the son of God of the Zhang family. However, Zhang Xiaoyao had been very low-key from the heavenly underworld ancient star to the chaotic astral ocean so as not to alert the enemy. Therefore, not many people knew that Zhang Xiaoyao had come to the chaotic astral ocean. All the cultivators in gigantic Crescent City were curious about the identity of the man in the demon mask. Zhang Xiaoyao did not show his face in public. Instead, he quietly adjusted his breath in the restaurant and continued his hobby of taking baths. This time, the one who served him was Yang Rumeng. No matter when or where, as long as Zhang Xiaoyao wanted to take a bath in a hot spring or take a bath, she would be there for him. There would always be a beautiful woman who would massage his shoulders and back and wash his body. This leisurely life lasted for a month. A month later, an extremely exquisite mobile heavenly palace landed in gigantic Crescent City. Looking at the heavenly palace that was overflowing with celestial light, everyone knew that the eldest daughter of the Xia family had finally arrived. Everyone knew that the eldest daughter of the Xia family controlled the imperial weapon cornucopia and was a veritable rich woman. More than half of the Xia family's business was also in her hands. It could be said that living off of Xia Bingyun was the dream of many geniuses. They wanted to say, "Miss, I don't want to work hard anymore. Please allow me to marry into your family. However, even a fool would know that Xia Bingyun's taste was not low. She controlled a huge amount of resources and wealth that even the immortal forces coveted. The Xia family was also one of the giants of the business alliance of 10,000 clans. More importantly, her talent and strength were not weak. She was the successor of an immortal force. Her appearance was also one of the best. How could such a perfect, fair-skinned, rich, and beautiful woman take a fancy to those ordinary geniuses? The story of an unknown, poor boy who was chosen by a fair, rich, and beautiful woman to be her son-in-law was nothing more than a story told by storytellers. The reality was that the beauty would only take a fancy to tall, rich, and handsome men. Jun Xiaoyaro was undoubtedly tall, rich, and handsome. He was the best kind. The mobile heavenly palace landed in the sky above gigantic Crescent City, attracting everyone's attention. There was a surge of light, and 10,000 steps of stairs descended directly to the restaurant Jun Xiaoyaro was in. An incomparably graceful and noble figure slowly stepped out of the heavenly palace. Chapter 662. At this moment, the entire titanic Crescent City was watching. Everyone's eyes were focused on the figure. Amidst the brilliance, a beautiful woman in a sapphire blue silk dress stepped down gracefully. The woman was about 20 years old. Her skin was fair, her face was as smooth as jade, and her figure was extremely good. Her smooth black hair was tied up in a bun with a peacock sapphire hairpin. She looked low-key and luxurious. She had bright eyes and white teeth, and her jade-like face was as beautiful as a lotus flower. However, she didn't look like a woman who only had looks. Her beautiful eyes were deep and profound, and she had a kind of intellectual temperament. She also had a beautiful and elegant feminine charm. This woman was the eldest daughter of the Xia family, Xia Bingyun. Greetings, Miss Awesome Literature website. Around the restaurant, some members of the Xia family cupped their hands. Over the years, without the help of Xia Bingyun and cornucopia, the Xia family would not have been able to develop to such an extent. That sinful pit dared to kidnap my sister. How hateful. Fortunately, she was rescued by a hero. Bingyun would like to see who it is. Xia Bingyun had a charming smile on her face. The surrounding male cultivators of the titanic Crescent City were stunned. Xia Bingyun was not only a beauty, but also a walking immortal essence mine. Looking at the beautiful lines of Xia Bingyun's legs, all the men present only wanted to hug her thighs and say that they did not want to work hard anymore. Of course, they could only dream about it. At this moment, in the restaurant, Jun Xiaoyaro was casually sitting in an armchair. Beside him, Yang Rumeng was massaging Jun Xiaoyao's shoulders. Xia Chuqing also had a smile on her face. The Feng clan's quasi-supreme, Feng Xiaotian, and the others were also present. Although Feng Xiaotian's performance was terrible and did not help much. However, the Feng clan was still a supreme clan, and the Xia family's elders were embarrassed to exclude him. I can finally see Bingyun. Feng Xiaotian's expression was a little excited. Although the situation did not develop as he had expected. As long as they met, there would be a chance. He believed that as the Feng clan daoist, he would be more trusted by Xia Bingyun than the masked man of unknown origins. A moment later, a beautiful woman walked into the restaurant. It was Xia Bingyun. Miss, the surrounding Xia family elders all cupped their hands towards Xia Bingyun. After all, Xia Bingyun was almost certain to be the next female head of the Xia family. In the future, the entire Xia family would have to listen to her orders. Xia Bingyun didn't care about the others. With a glance, she saw the ghost-masked man who was still calmly sitting on the armchair and drinking tea. As a strong woman in the business world, Xia Bingyun naturally had a lot of experience. She immediately sensed that the man in front of her was definitely a lofty figure with a shocking background that could not be offended. That calm and indifferent temperament of looking down on billions of living beings was not something that could be casually imitated. Sister Bingyun. Seeing Xia Bingyun enter, Xia Chuqing also pounced into Xia Bingyun's embrace like a swallow returning to its nest. It's good that you're fine. Next time I won't let you go out. Xia Bingyun rubbed Xia Chuqing's little head, a trace of doting in her beautiful eyes. But what puzzled her was, How did the people of the sinful pit know Xia Chuqing's route? The route she took to the chaotic astral ocean to collect materials should only be known to the people of the Merchant Alliance. Sister Bingyun, it was that little brother who saved me. Xia Chuqing raised her little face. Seeing this, Xia Bingyun bowed slightly to Jun Xiaoyao. Bingyun thanks young master for saving my sister. It's nothing much. There's no need for that. Jun Xiaoyao remained seated in his armchair, taking a sip of tea as he said. This made Xia Bingyun's eyes reveal a strange look. When other men saw her, they were all in fear and trepidation, for fear that they would neglect her or make her unhappy. But the man in front of her was calm and composed. Let alone returning the greeting, he didn't even get up from the chair. In other words, he did not treat Xia Bingyun as a person of equal status. Xia Bingyun was also not angry. Instead, she was even more certain that the man in front of her absolutely had an astonishing background. But what Xia Bingyun didn't know was that, under the mask, Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were also filled with a strange look. That aura, could it be? Jun Xiaoyao thought to himself. He felt an aura from Xia Bingyun's body. It was an aura that he was somewhat familiar with. Emperor weapon, treasure bowl, could it be? Jun Xiaoyao seemed to have thought of something, his eyes lighting up slightly. One can wear out iron shoes in fruitless search, only to find it by chance. The corners of his mouth revealed a faint smile, and he was even more certain of his idea of subduing Xia Bingyun and the Xia family. Since young master has saved my sister, you can ask for any reward you want. My Xia family should be able to satisfy it. Xia Bingyun's appearance was still decent, and she did not show any dissatisfaction because of Jun Xiaoyao's attitude. Jun Xiaoyao secretly nodded his head at her temperament. She was indeed good material to be a housekeeper. In that case, I won't hold back. I want you. Jun Xiaoyao paused. Everyone around was stunned. He wanted Xia Bingyun. Good heavens, this was no longer about wanting to eat peaches. He wanted to open a garden of peaches. The group of elders of the Xia family was also stunned. Although they really wanted to recruit Jun Xiaoyao, wasn't it a little too abrupt to directly ask for the eldest daughter of the Xia family? Feng Xiaotian even sneered. Even he couldn't win the heart of the fair, rich, and beautiful woman, so how could this masked man in front of him do it? Moreover, such a straight man's words were simply rude to the beauty. However, what surprised Feng Xiaotian and everyone else was that Xia Bingyun still didn't have a trace of anger. Just as she was about to say something, Jun Xiaoyao continued, I want something from you. This made everyone's jaws drop. Could he finish his sentence in one sentence? Xia Bingyun also covered her mouth and laughed, young master is quite humorous. What do you want from Bingyun? Jun Xiaoyao tapped his fingers on the armrest of the armchair and said lightly, it's not convenient here. Let's find a quiet place to talk privately. Jun Xiaoyao already had a plan in mind. Xia Bingyun was a fat sheep. If he didn't take more of her wool, how could he be worthy of saving Xia Chuqing? This time, Feng Xiaotian couldn't sit still. A man and a woman alone in a quiet place chatting privately. What could they talk about? Brother, this is a little too much. Not to mention anything else, just the mask you're wearing makes people suspicious of your origin. Feng Xiaotian said righteously, looking as if he was thinking for Xia Bingyun. What does it have to do with you? Jun Xiaoyao shook his head slightly, finding it a little funny. Feng Xiaotian's eyes flashed. In the next moment, his body turned into a gust of wind and swept in front of Jun Xiaoyao in an instant, directly grabbing the mask off his face. He wanted to know who this guy who dared to flirt with Xia Bingyun was but only showed his tail. Jun Xiaoyao didn't have any reaction. In any case, he didn't have to hide anything anymore. After the mask was taken off, a flawless, ethereal, and immortal-like face appeared in front of everyone's eyes. When they saw this face, all the men present were stunned, and shocked. The women, on the other hand, were suffocating, dumbfounded, and dripping with water. No one knew who it was, but someone said in a shocked tone, it's the Jun family's son of God. It's really him.